And
And
V
I'm
is sleepy.
falling asleep.
And I am brain dead from researching this case. Someone please kill me right now. Thank you.
Hi, welcome to Tipsy Mysteries.
We're dead.
We're dead inside.
But you guys come here for that, right?
Right?
Maybe. I
Why
don't
not?
know. It's fine. It's fine. We are your hosts. I am Kate.
And I'm V.
And this is our super fun, cool, sleepy time, apparently, podcast show.
Sleepy time, because I worked all day, and I've been up since 7. And I went to sleep at like 2. I said I was going to go to sleep at like 10. No.
Oh, no. That was me.
Oh, I should have.
It's still the Yawamushi Pedal ones. I think I'm maybe 2 away from reading all 128 Mitosaka fics that there are.
So if there's any Yowamushi Pedal fans out there, write some Mitosaka for Kate.
Please, I will pay you in art and smooches, maybe.
Ooh, smooches.
Or if you have one, if you want to write a chapter, I would cry, because the majority of these are these 7-chapter ones that get you invested, that have not been updated since 2015. So you know there's no chance of them coming back to it. It's heartbreak every time. But still, I did it. It's fine. This is our podcast show.
Hi, we do a podcast about true crime and mysteries. And paranormal and cryptids and stuff. But we also talk a lot about anime.
I apologize.
We should probably add that into our things. Like, we talk about true crime and anime.
Sorry for our existence, but if you like it, cool.
If you get our jokes and the reasons why I cry over dramatical murder and how terrible it is,
I think that's the right place. My favorite goddamn part. Guys, go back and listen to episode 30. Was it 30? 32. 2 episodes ago.
It's a ride.
If you want to hear V screaming about dramatical murder, because it's the funniest goddamn thing I've seen all of 2020, and it made this year possible in my heart. It's just you screaming.
I don't remember much of that until you sent me like the audio of it, and I was like,
my favorite is as I'm recording it, you can hear me wheezing in the background as I'm recording, because I'm still laughing about it. It's so funny. I can make that my ringtone. Well, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, we have a very special episode for you today.
Yeah.
This is our fun Christmas special.
Yeah.
That V has been wanting to do for a whole year.
Have I?
Yeah, back when we started the podcast
Before we even started, I was like, we should do like themed episodes about certain things once in a while.
And it turns out planning things is hard.
Very hard.
Difficult.
You did all of it, and I'm just like, oof.
It's okay.
One of these days, I'm just gonna be like, you know what, I got it, and then we won't have it.
I sent you an episode to edit.
Okay, I'll be like, I don't know what I'm doing, but okay.
It'll be a fun time. Throwback to episode 1. Rest in pieces. I apologize for that one, guys. Ooh, but we're here now. Our quality did go up.
That's all that matters. As long as everyone's been enjoying the ride, that's all that matters.
Absolutely true. Well, since it is nearing Christmas time, and it'll be even closer to Christmas when this bad boy comes out, we have a very special story.
Tell me about your week.
Oh, I've just been researching this case.
That's all that's happened is just stress and research.
Yes.
That's all you had.
That's it. What about you?
I just work and stress.
We've both been stressed.
Yeah. But it's been fine. It's been fine.
Has it?
Just a couple mental breakdowns.
Cheers!
Yes.
Wait.
Cheers.
Clink.
Clink. Got myself strawberry wine.
Ooh, I've got
the Moscow Mule.
Yeah, because I forgot I had a can in my fridge.
Nice.
Here we are. Well, Miss Thing, would you like to introduce? So, guys, this is our first episode where we will be talking about the same story.
Yeah.
Because it's a big one.
It is such a big one. That's why I was like, if we ever do the story, it has to be one that we do together because of
this is like our little love child of an episode.
Truly a love child that I think everyone in the world that knows about this is like truly becomes obsessed with after a while. And it's like just from that, you're like, oh, I know exactly which episode this is. And if you're not really into true crime and this is like your first time really hearing things,
please listen, because I put so much goddamn research into this, guys. Please,
you'll be obsessed, I think, as well. Most likely, you'll be very obsessed with this because it's about, you can situation that happened.
Oh, you guys will listen. You'll be able to show up to your Christmas parties, your small gatherings, because guys, be safe, and you'll be able to tell them all the fun, gruesome facts about this case.
Yeah,
because that's what I've been doing, and everyone in my house hates me right now.
I love that. So we're going to be doing the story of the case on JonBenet Ramsey. The very, very, very cold case on JonBenet Ramsey.
It is still active.
Yeah.
Open.
I'm not surprised. Like everyone, that's going to be one of the stories like that, and the Madeleine McCann is going to be like, everyone's always going to be obsessed with it because you've got so many possibilities. And yet somehow every step of the way got fucked up in some way, and some way.
It's truly incredible to me.
Every time we've talked like this week, it's all been just about this episode.
Yes.
It's all been about like all the research that's been going into this. It's just
guys,
ridiculous.
Can you guess how many pages our notes are today? Guys, take your guess.
If you haven't looked at Kate's Twitter.
I've been complaining a lot. So don't be scared, guys. Don't be frightened off. But our notes today are 19 pages long.
That's not scary because it's going to be both of our stories. Yes. Together is that. And usually, like when I used to do research, mine would be like 7 pages. Yours would be 10 or 8. And then we'd be like having almost as much in our own stories. So that's why we knew that this one itself had to be a long special episode for the holidays.
So you guys can get all cozy as we tell you the story of dear little JonBenet Ramsey.
Yeah.
The way we have split this up is we are going to, because we wanted to keep this as unbiased as we possibly can. Granted, I know that some bias will slip through, and I apologize for that.
It's going to happen no matter what.
No matter who you listen to do this case, just try and keep in mind what their angle is, what they might be pressing.
And insinuating.
Exactly. Because as I was telling you earlier before I started recording, the thing with this case is that the main problem is that someone will have a theory in mind, which is perfectly fine, but they will then cherry pick the evidence to support their theory, which in this case, it's very easy to do.
Very easy.
To ignore some other parts, which that's human nature to do that, and it makes sense, and I get it.
And subconsciously, people just do it, even when they're trying not to be.
Exactly. So there's definitely some subconscious in the notes. I apologize. I really just wanted to give you guys all the info, so if something makes sense and it clicks to you, hell yeah. If, like, we'll kind of give our personal opinions at the end, but think of this as like a murder mystery ride. You are the detective, because we're going to give you the timeline. We're going to give you some notes about some certain things that have come into question, aka the 911 call and the ransom note, the two big contenders of evidence in this case. Oof. Then we're going to kind of walk you through, what was it? So many goddamn notes. Then we're going to walk you through an autopsy. And then we're going to walk you through an investigation. And then we're going to walk you through some possible scenarios and some suspects. So
there's a lot of walking happening. Make sure you're wearing the right shoes.
Wear your walking shoes.
My feet hurt from work.
Well, you have to walk on this ride with me. Come on.
Okay. I'll walk.
Yes. So if you guys want an even better podcast that I found really unbiased because they literally just give you all the evidence, it was from True Crime Garage. They did a 4-part, which is very good and very helpful. Also, sources we used were the JonBenet Ramsey Case Encyclopedia, which, holy shit, this is a website, has literally every resource on this case. It was so helpful. A little too helpful because it's hard to
leave that place and get out of that mindset too. Like once you go down that rabbit hole, you're all consumed by this case.
It's fun. We also went with Sinisterhood podcast as well. They did a 2-parter, which was also very informative, as well as statementanalysis.com and the Rolling Stone. All of these were very, very helpful in this, and I hope that I hope you guys will still like us by the end of this. I think that's what I'm worried about.
I think as long as we have a good time, that's all that matters.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, how do we want to start this out?
Should I start?
Yeah. Do you want to start like the first 2 paragraph thingies?
Yeah, I'll do that first part.
Cool.
So, in the early morning hours of December 26, 1996, John and Patsy Ramsey awoke to find their 6-year-old daughter, JonBenet Ramsey, missing from her bed at their home in Boulder, Colorado. She would later be found dead in the basement of her home, the apparent victim of a homicide that still remains a mystery to this day. Named after her father, JonBenet, and her mother, Patricia, who was also called Patsy, JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990, in Atlanta, Georgia.
Leo. Sorry.
It's a little Leo.
For me.
So, the youngest of 2 children, with her older brother Burke, at 9 years old at the time of her murder. Let me try that again. The youngest of 2 children, her older brother Burke, was 9 at the time of her murder. JonBenet was an outgoing Southern girl who enjoyed being the center of attention. By age 6, she had already won multiple pageant titles, thanks to her bouncy blonde hair, poised smile, and glittery costumes. Her father, a multimillionaire businessman, and her mother, who was a former beauty queen, Miss West Virginia of 1977, doted on their daughter in every way they could. Their luxurious home was plush with everything JonBenet needed to live a comfortable life. By most accounts, the Ramseys appeared to be a happy and loving family who enjoyed their lives.
Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh.
So first, we're going to give you some key prior events to when this occurred in 1996, just so you can get like a better picture of what was going on. So in January of 1994, Burke actually hit JonBenet Ramsey in the face with a golf club. By all accounts, and like the one adult that was there to witness it, they said it was an accident.
Mm-hmm.
It could have been. Like,
that's true.
I remember accidentally hitting my sister with like a metal thing when we were like 5. Because she could have been standing behind him while he swung it. Or on the other hand, he could have gotten mad and like hit her in the face. We really don't know.
We may never know unless Burke wants to like comment and email us at tipsymysteries@gmail.com.
Hello, don't sue us.
Don't sue us.
So then in October of 1994, JonBenet actually underwent plastic surgery in Denver She actually underwent plastic surgery from a plastic surgeon in Denver for the scar related to the golf club. So she would have been about 5 or 4 at that time.
She would have been 4 because she was born in August 1990.
Good Lord.
October 1994, she would have just barely turned a little bit after turning 4.
Damn. I mean, I don't know how bad the scar was, but imagining a 4-year-old going under for plastic surgery.
Right?
It's a little intense for me.
But and then she goes off to do pageants afterwards. I wonder if there's like an alternative motive for that too.
That would make sense because Patsy did grow up, and so Patsy and her sister did grow up in the pageant world, and that was kind of like their thing. And apparently Patsy was like super stoked to have a daughter that she could then share this with because she loved just like dressing up JonBenet and like giving her makeovers, everything, which would make sense.
Pictures of her like not dead. She's very dressed up, very.
Yes. Some are a lot more questionable than others, and that'll kind of come into play. But yeah, she went on to actually do really well in these pageants. And in April of 1995, I'll take a step back real fast. So
December.
There we go. So back in December of 1994, there was a historic Homes for the Holidays tour. And the Ramseys did this, I think, a few times, if I remember correctly. So their house was among 7 included in this holiday tour, accumulating in 1,500 to 2,000 guests walking through the home. So basically, they would get their house all decorated up for Christmas, and then people would pay like $5 at the door to come in and look at their very extravagant house. Because it's a big house. It's a 4-story house.
Yeah. That's a lot of house for 2 kids and 2 parents.
Yeah, that's kind of bonker bananas big. But they were a very, very wealthy family because of John Ramsey's business. He was in the computer tech world, and he had a company called Alpha Graphics. And they actually it was over $1 million in sales right before the time of her death. Mm-hmm. So they were living a very comfortable life. Like they had 2 jets, multiple homes kind of deal, if that gives you an idea.
Wow. Yeah. But, like I knew they were rich. I just didn't know how rich.
It's kind of bonker bananas crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot. So in April of 1995, JonBenet Ramsey actually won the Colorado All-Stars Christmas pageant. And so that was a pretty big title win for her. And she also won a lot of others. And then in 1996, she won America's Royal Tiny Miss, which is a division title.
That's cute. So she won
a lot of pageants. Mm-hmm. And she did really well. And there's been mixed reports over whether or not she truly liked doing pageants or not. Patsy said she loved it. Her dad said she loved it. I've seen other sources that say that she really just wanted to be a tomboy and play in the mud.
Well, it's very possible she could have wanted wanted to have both, the best of both worlds.
That's true. Like on one hand, I can imagine having a 6-year-old standing like perfectly poised, smile for a few hours. They probably would get tired by the end.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure as a child, she's thinking that she's a star and she's having a great time of her life. And she's not falling into like peer pressure yet and like being like, I don't want to be perceived quite yet. But she also wants to run around and do whatever she desires.
Exactly. So like, I mean, I could see it being a situation where had she grown up, she probably would have grown out of it.
Or she might have
speculation, but
yes. Or she might have just like been like, this is all I want to do.
Yeah.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
We just don't know. But yeah, so she won a lot of titles. With that came a lot of visibility with her. Mm-hmm. Because these pageants were a big thing in Colorado and a few other places. Think of Toddlers and Tiaras.
Exactly, but before cable. No, not before cable. I think cable was still a thing in the early 90s.
I think so.
I was too poor to have cable in the early 90s, so I don't know.
Fair. Oof. Burpee. Yeah, there's a lot of mixed feelings on these pageants themselves, which I completely understand. I mean, some of the outfits can be really cute. A lot of the others, though, are questionable. They're really revealing in ways that you wouldn't expect. The makeup is very heavy. It's all
it makes her look very mature for her age.
Yes,
way too mature for a 6-year-old.
That is my biggest problem with it. Is when it goes into that territory. Something doesn't sit right with that. You feel?
Yeah, especially since in that time too, because like I noticed that like the generations, the younger people are starting to look way more mature at such a younger age than like when I was their age. And I'm like,
Oh yeah.
that just makes me so uncomfortable. And to imagine a 6-year-old in the mid 90s looking like an 18, 20-year-old, like in the face. I'm just like,
Yeah, it's just something is off about that. Of course, you guys can have your opinion differently. That's all good. That's just kind of what we think. So, are you ready to go into the timeline, my friend?
I am. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, insert.
Okay. Oof, my chair is swiveling and hit my pop filter with my tit.
We are professionals.
I'm not. I will never call myself a professional. Have I called myself a professional before? I retract every statement I've ever made about being a professional because I am not. Right.
I could Frankenstein a sentence together right there.
So, December 25th, 1996. At 5 or 6 p.m., the Ramseys had left for a Christmas party at Fleet and Priscilla White's. Then they left the party later on, and on the drive home, JonBenet and her brother Burke fell asleep in the car. When the Ramseys arrived home, John put JonBenet to bed. He went to play a game with Burke, and soon after, Burke went to bed as well. Then, at 10 p.m., that was the last time that JonBenet Ramsey was seen alive. So the Ramsey had reported that JonBenet Ramsey was in her bed still at 10 p.m. And then between 10 to 10:30 p.m., John and Patsy go to bed and claim that they were not awakened during the night.
And John actually says that he took a sleeping aid that night as well, because I guess he took them pretty regularly. Just a side note.
And then at around midnight, Scott Gibbons looked out his kitchen window at the Ramseys' residence and observed the upper kitchen lights were on and dimmed low. Just creepy. I'm glad that their neighbors are like very snoopy and like looking into their house and like, why are they up at midnight? What are they doing?
Oh yeah, these guys were like having like a little movie party or something.
That's right.
And it ended around like 1 or 2. So that makes sense. Like if you get a kitchen snack or something, you look up, you're like, oh, why are there lights on at midnight? That's kind of weird.
Yeah. And then at 2 a.m., neighbor Melody Stanton heard a scream along with the sound of metal hitting concrete between midnight and 2 a.m.
So apparently her husband also heard it as well. It was like, I heard, if I remember right, there were some reports say that they heard more than one, but they had just assumed that it was like a kid waking up from a nightmare. What is interesting is that later investigators realized that, because the question came in like, how did the parents not hear the scream? They actually tested, and if you're in the basement and you scream, you can be heard from outside the house, but you can't be heard you can't be heard from the top floor.
Wow.
Which was weird. I was like, oh, fuck.
That is not good.
It's real spooky. Ugh.
That's crazy. So around 5:30 a.m., that's when John and Patsy woke up, and they proceeded to get ready for their trip. So John took a shower and got dressed, while Patsy put back on the same outfit that she had on the night before and reapplied her makeup. I got a burp. No, I don't. And then at 5:45 a.m., that's when the ransom note was discovered. So Patsy then went down the back stairs towards the second floor, then the spiral stairs towards the ground floor, where on a step near the bottom of the stairs, she discovered a handwritten note that indicated that JonBenet had been kidnapped.
Oh, do you want me to read the note?
Yes.
So this note is bonker bananas. If you guys know the case, it makes no sense. So, are you ready?
Yes. Let's reenact and read out this ransom note. It's a very long ransom note.
Buckle up, buttercups. So, Mr. Ramsey, listen carefully. We are a group of individuals that represent a small foreign faction. We do respect your business, but not the country that it serves. At this time, we have your daughter in our possession. She is safe and unharmed, and if you want her to see 1997, you must follow our instructions to the letter. You will withdraw $1,800 from your account.
118.
You will withdraw 118,000?
Mm-hmm.
You will withdraw 118,000 from your account. 100,000 will be in $100 bills, and the remaining 18,000 will be in $20 bills. Make sure that you bring an adequate attaché to the bank. When you get home, you will put the money in a brown paper bag. I will call you between 8 and 10 a.m. tomorrow to instruct you on delivery. The delivery will be exhausting, so I advise you to be rested. If we monitor you getting the money early, we might call you early to arrange an earlier delivery of the money and hence an earlier delivery pickup of your daughter. Any deviation of my instructions will result in the immediate execution of your daughter.
You will also...
Oh, there we go. You will also be denied her remains for proper burial. The two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them. Speaking to anyone about your situation, such as police, FBI, etc., will result in your daughter being beheaded.
What?
If we catch you talking to a stray dog, she dies. Oh. If you alert bank authorities, she dies. If the money is in any way marked or tampered with, she dies. You will be scanned for electronic devices, and if any are found, she dies. You
can try to deceive us.
You can try to deceive us, but be warned, we are familiar with law enforcement countermeasures and tactics. You stand a 99% chance of killing your daughter if you try and outsmart us. Follow our instructions, and you stand a 100% chance of getting her back. You and your family are under constant scrutiny as well as the authorities. Don't try to grow a brain, John. You are not the only fat cat around, so don't think that killing will be difficult. Don't underestimate us, John. Use that good Southern common sense of yours. It is up to you now, John. Victory. SBTC. Thoughts? It sounds like straight out of a goddamn movie.
It's way too long. It's way too dramatic. Way too... feel like it's like... You remember the collar bomb?
Yeah!
Thing?
Oh my God.
Then there was like based on like... Then there was a movie that was like based off of that. That was like a comedy. It gives me off like that kind of like... It's like a random ass... terrible comedy kind of ransom note that like Jesse Eisenberg would be in.
Yeah.
And I'm baffled that this was a thing that is real, that this happened, that it's 3 pages long, that this note.
This is the longest recorded ransom note in FBI history. It could be real.
It could be real, but I can't remember if we put in how. I'm pretty sure like there's the details about like all the things in this note and how like very specific it is for. Yes. And it's just like, why that number? Like, why those bills? Why? How? I'm just like. Then it got like very personal at the end too, and I'm just like,
there's that weird deviation.
Uh-huh.
So, one of the first things we notice is that this is a very long ransom note. Most ransom notes are short and to the point. Most will say, we have your kid and she is safe. It'll cost you $500,000 to get her back. Do not call the police. We'll be contacting you. Mm-hmm. Easy. Done. You get your point across. You don't reveal as much information about yourself. Perfect.
You don't want to give them so much information if you're going to be kidnapping.
Exactly. Makes no goddamn sense. So this ransom note was written on 3 pieces of paper. The writer also states that they represent a small foreign faction. The use of the word small does not make any sense. A kidnapper would want to exhibit power over the Ramseys. Mm-hmm. The use of the word foreign sounds odd as well. Even if they were foreigners, they wouldn't call themselves foreigners. Mm-mm. The writer misspells 2 common words, both business and possession. However, the writer correctly spells the words deviation, and attaché, even including the accent on the word attaché. So I know I had to look up what that meant. I had not heard of that word before this case.
It's this just baffles me, just this stupid note. It literally makes me want to laugh, and I giggled, but it's also a very serious situation.
It is, which makes it tricky because it's so baffling.
It makes no sense that someone would write such a long note, misspell common words, add in not fancy, but words that you
attaché.
Yeah, it's just get straight to the point. Don't give details about who you might be in this situation. It's you don't want them to know where you're coming from, why you're doing this. No, they don't need it. You're not a Disney villain giving off and having your solo song about why you're doing this.
Thank you for that.
I'm serious. I'm just
No, you're absolutely right.
It's like a Disney. Ow, Charlie! It's like a Disney villain. Just
straight up
got you all tied up. Gonna tell you my whole plan and how you could possibly ruin it.
Here's my tragic backstory. Please and thank you.
Right, but I won't think that you could ruin it because I'm telling you everything while you're tied up as you're untying yourself.
So this leads us to believe that the writer purposely misspelled the two words to make it look like an uneducated person or a foreigner wrote this note. The irony. It's weird. It's fucking weird because the two misspellings occur in the first paragraph, and then after that, the writer uses correct grammar. So this could be a further indication of the misspellings that were done on purpose.
Yeah.
So next is the amount of the ransom, which was $118,000, which is a relatively small amount of money for people as rich as the Ramseys. Usually a kidnapper would demand much more money.
Yeah. Usually you're trying to break their bank.
Yeah. You could easily ask for $1 million and they would do it. However, I will say I have seen other theories that also kind of make sense with one was asking for this amount because they knew it would be relatively easy for the Ramseys to get and they would be less likely to get police involved. You just get the quick money from the bank. You have it.
Why not make it an even 150,000 or 120,000 or 100,000? I'm why 118? What are you doing, Charlie?
That is the weirdest part. I've also seen another theory that, let's say the intruder was someone younger. This could be more money to them than an older kidnapper. That could make sense as well.
So someone who's watched a lot of Disney movies is aha, this is what I must do.
So
sorry. I was going to say how there was also that theory about how that was the specific amount that was the bonus, but
that's theory. That's very close to the dollar amount that John Ramsey had received as his holiday bonus. So if it was an even number, it wouldn't be as weird, but you're right because of the 18, that just feels like a weird amount to ask for.
Yeah.
So this leads you to believe okay, this is someone that knew what was going on, maybe saw a pay stub or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
So
someone in HR.
The writer tells the Ramseys, goodbye, Pop Filter. I knew you well. She's baby.
She just wants to be held.
She's baby.
Gosh. I will just hold you forever.
There we go. So the writer tells the Ramseys to bring an adequate size attaché to the bank. Most kidnappers aren't going to say this. And it is doubtful that a kidnapper would tell you to be rested before the delivery.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Have you drinking your full 8 glasses of water? Are you good to go? No.
They don't care about that. They're not going to be... You kidnapped their child. Why are you caring about their well-being?
Why are you caring about their sleep schedule? Come on.
Right?
So then the sentence, the two gentlemen watching over your daughter do not particularly like you, so I advise you not to provoke them, is actually not very aggressive language.
Right.
This could indicate that a woman wrote this note, and other statements in the ransom note, such as "I advise you to be rested," also show a feminine touch. And this is according to people that professionals in the field that have analyzed the note. There we go.
Yeah.
So 4 times the writer uses the phrase "she dies." If JonBenet were still alive, the writer should have been speaking in future tense and said "she will die." This could be a strong indication that the writer knew JonBenet was dead when the ransom note was written.
Oof.
Right? Because it's easier to write out like half-truths than full lies, and this is a subconscious thing. So that would make sense. So, there are also several movie references found in the ransom note. And all of them were notably from movies that the Ramseys enjoyed and had posters of inside their home. Though it's possible someone was like, you know what, Dirty Harry is my favorite fucking movie. I'm going to quote that in here.
Or they just like stalked their house and like, oh, that was a good movie. Okay. Oh, I like that movie too. Huh.
Dirty Harry and Speed. Let me add these very specific deals into my ransom note because I guess I had time to walk around your house too. I don't know.
But you never know. They might have had plenty of time to walk around the house.
That is true. To write a 2.5-page ransom letter at this point.
Yeah. Like, obviously, if you're writing a ransom letter, you have to think about what you're saying, especially if it's going to be 2.5 pages long. Ma'am, I need you to not be here. Ugh.
So, and if you take into account that investigators are pretty certain that the ransom note was written after she died, that's also an interesting indicator as well. Like, that's one thing that they're pretty certain on from the sources I've seen. I could be wrong, but I don't know.
We may never know.
We may never know. So there has also been a lot of speculation as to what the letters SBTC mean. One of the more popular theories is Saved by the Cross. This is because the Ramseys, especially Patsy, were devout Christians. Though this could be any other jumble of words. Like,
Seashells by the coast.
Seashells by the coast.
Salami by
Booty.
the cans.
Oh.
I don't know.
Shake booty to... Wait. Salt. Babe. Take cake. I don't know. I think my brain shorted out doing all this research, guys. If I sound funky wonky, it's because I've been so deep in this case. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I feel that.
So
you just bit me. Get off of me.
I love Charlie.
Please. I love you, but not right now.
Hold me, mother.
Please.
So, as we said, this is the longest recorded ransom note in FBI history, which I think is an important thing to take into account. With everything said and done, statistics are important. So that's a weird one. Here's the other fact I'm sure everyone knows, and it still gets me to this day. So it was soon proven that the note was written on paper from inside the home.
Yes.
On a notepad that was kept by the phone. Since it's 1996, you'd keep a notepad and a pen in case someone called and you needed to write down a message. That was normal.
Yeah.
So forensic tests on the notepad also revealed that there had been a practice letter started via the indentations in the paper. That's fucking weird. And it even starts out...
Who would write the ransom note in the house and restart it? Because they're like, oh, wait, no, I don't like how I wrote this. Let me just retry this.
What's interesting is that the practice note said, it was like, Dear Mr. and Mrs. I.
Huh.
Yeah, and then they scrapped that. So I don't know. It's weird. It's fucking weird. Even weirder, in my opinion, is that it was also discovered that the pen used to write the note came from inside the house as well. Mm-hmm. And this is actually proven because of testing done by the Secret Service. They have a database of 7,000 different types of ink from pens, and they were able to discover that it was a pre-November 1992 water-based ink. So the same ink as the Sharpie found in a cup under the phone.
Wow.
And the Sharpie, so both the Sharpie and the notepad had been used to write the notes in the practice notes. So this meant whoever wrote the notes wrote it and then neatly put the pen and the notepad back in their usual spots.
It just makes no sense to me.
That is a very weird detail to me.
Yeah. Like if you're kidnapping someone and you're leaving a note, you wouldn't put things away. You would just try to leave as soon as you can. Leave the note in a place where they can see it.
Plus, if your mind's occupied with, oh my God, I just killed a 6-year-old, I don't think you're going to have the mental cognition to be like, oh, this pad of paper was right here and this pen was in this specific cup.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but that's just what it kind of feels like to me. Again, I don't want to have bias, but I know it's there. I'm sorry, guys. Maybe someone was like really anal like I am and remembered where stuff is.
I feel like if you were to kidnap someone and write a ransom note, you would come prepared. I feel like that would be something that you would do. Bring something that they can't find in that house. Or maybe you would use something in their house. Because in that way...
that is a theory, is that someone like wrote the practice note, brought it with them, copied the practice note onto that notepad, and then took their real note with them and then left the note that they wrote with and stuff in the house.
Because then they'd be like, why is this note from the house? Instead of being like, this note came from outside the house.
Yeah. This case is just so fucking weird.
It's very weird.
So, back to our time. Ooh, do you want to go back to our timeline, dear friend?
Totally go back. So, at 5:45 a.m., after finding the ransom note, Patsy immediately screamed and proceeded to check JonBenet's room, which was empty. And then before 5:52 a.m., after hearing Patsy's scream, John ran downstairs and met her in the stairwell. Together, they checked on Burke, who appeared to be sleeping in his room. Then before 5:52 a.m. again, John then went downstairs to read the ransom note and spread the note out on the floor. And then at 5:52 a.m., that's when Patsy Ramsey makes the 911 call. And John told Patsy to call the police, and the 911 call was logged at 5:52 a.m.
So we're going to play you the 911 call. We realized we can because it is basically public property. This is just so you guys can... I always like hearing things from cases because it kind of gives me a bigger mental picture of what's going on.
Yeah, makes it more real too.
Exactly.
Just a story.
Exactly. So you guys can hear her voice and you can kind of decide as well what you think. Oh my God, I have to download YouTube again. One sec.
You are fine. Do you want me to play it? Oops, where did that go?
Yes. If that's cool with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like put it up to the speaker or the microphone.
911 emergency. Police. What's going on? 15th Street. What's going on there, ma'am? We have a kidnapping. Hurry, please. Explain to me what's going on, okay? There's a note left and our daughter's gone. A note was left and your daughter is gone? How old is your daughter? 6 years old. She's gone. 6 years old. How long ago was it? I don't know. I just have the note. And my daughter, does it say who took her? What? Does it say who took her? I don't know. There's a ransom note here. It's a ransom note? It says FBTC. Victory. Please. Okay, what's your name? Are you Kathy Ramsey? I'm the mother. Oh my God. Please. I'm sending an officer over, okay? Please. Do you know how long she's been gone? No, I don't. Please, we just got out. Is she on here? Oh my God, please. Okay, come. I am, honey. Please. Take a deep breath. Please. Okay. Hurry. Patsy.
there's always been something just really spooky about that 911 call.
Yeah.
It feels rushed, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But don't worry, guys. We're going to go to specifics. Are you ready?
Yes.
Now that you guys have listened and absorbed, here are some thoughts from a lot of people that have done a lot of research on this case.
Kate,
Is
your thoughts?
So notice that Patsy's plea for help lacks kill me.
No.
Notice that Patsy's plea for help lacks specifics. She does not tell the 911 operator who was kidnapped. We would expect her to say, "My daughter," or "Our daughter has been kidnapped." Saying, my daughter has been kidnapped" may be a direct lie. And so saying, "We have a kidnapping" may be a lie that lacks enough specifics to make it easier to say. So kind of the thing we talked about earlier, where like it's easier to tell like a half-truth.
Yeah.
So that wording already, "we have a kidnapping," is already weird to me. Wouldn't you say like, "Oh, my daughter was just kidnapped"?
Yeah, I'd be like,
That
my
feels
daughter
more-
was taken. I don't know where my daughter is. Someone kidnapped my daughter.
That feels more natural.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
said there's a kidnapping. Did you kidnap someone? What's going
we
on?
have a kidnapping. The wording, there's a reason people say words, and in cases like these, it is important to look at them.
Mhm.
So when she says, there's a note left and our daughter is gone, Patsy has an unfinished sentence. We have appears to be, it appears she was going to repeat what she told the 911 operator in her previous statement. "We have a kidnapping." Almost as if it was rehearsed in her head, but that could also just be her freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
So she finishes this sentence by saying, "Our daughter is gone." Order is essential here. And this sentence appears to be out of order. So she first told the 911 operator about the note. Then she told her that their daughter was gone. The most important thing is that JonBenet is missing, and that should have been the first thing she told the 911 operator.
Yes.
That's a bigger tell for me personally.
Yes.
So when the 911 operator asks, "Does it say who took her?" Patsy asks what? Answering a question with a question often indicates that person has asked a sensitive question to the person they're talking to. And it's often used as a tactic to stall, to allow that person to think of how they should answer the question. But we do also have to take into consideration that it's possible Patsy just didn't hear what she said.
Mm-hmm.
This entire case. I'm sorry if we sound wishy-washy, guys. I'm sorry. So when asked if the note said who took JonBenet, Patsy said, "No, I don't know." In reality, the note said that a foreign faction was responsible for JonBenet's disappearance. So why didn't she say so?
Mm-hmm.
Because she got to the end. And
Yeah, she got to the last part of it.
Yeah.
It's a very small company or faction that doesn't like the way that John's company works.
So I feel like it would have made more
company-
sense to say a group, a foreign group or something. But
Yeah, they're like this. The note says there's a foreign group that took my daughter.
Exactly. So Patsy also had another change in language. She now calls it a ransom note, not a note. At the time, there is no justification for that change in language, meaning it could be an indication of deception.
Mm-hmm.
So when the 911 operator asks, "Okay, what's your name? Are you?" She says, "Patsy Ramsey, I am the mother. Oh my God, please." Notice that Patsy said the and not her. Saying "I am her mother" makes it more personal, while saying "I am the mother" shows distance.
It's true.
That's also another big tell for me personally. Like, I can't think of an instance where it would be natural to say, "I'm the mother." Does that make sense? Like,
It doesn't. It's very, very distant in my head.
So it's weird. Most 911 calls begin with a plea for help. Patsy's plea for help appears towards the end of her call. "Please send somebody." She's only asked for help after the 911 operator said to her, "I'm sending an officer over." Lastly, the other odd thing with this 911 call is that Patsy hung up the phone. So the 911 operator is your lifeline. This is the person who's going to help you, and they are going to send you help.
Usually you want to be on the line with them until the help gets there too.
Yeah, and the operator tells you to stay on the line because they're there to help calm you. They're telling you when police are arriving. Usually they will
Usually if you're really anxious about making sure someone comes, like they will tell you like where on the route.
Yeah, where's the police? Are they on the way? Are they on the way? So in the majority of the cases, the one calling will stay on the phone with the 911 operator until help arrives. Yet once she reports the kidnapping, Patsy hangs up the phone. So that's just a very unusual circumstance given the statistics and the usual human behavior when people do make 911 calls.
Mm-hmm.
So it has also been said that before Patsy hung up, the other voices can be heard in the background. According to some experts, first you hear, "Help me, Jesus, which is clearly Patsy's voice, which you can pretty clearly hear. Then in the distance, there was another voice, which sounded like JonBenet's brother saying, "Please, what do I do?" You can then hear John Ramsey saying, "We're not speaking to you." Patsy then screams again, "Help me, Jesus, help me, Jesus." And then more clearly, Burke says, "What did you find?" Though it should be noted that the voices have been disputed. It's been a big point of contention because some people can hear them, some people can't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the call is still pretty fuzzy, and it sounds like she was trying to put it back on the receiver when that was done. So maybe there's voices, maybe there's not. There hasn't been solid, conclusive evidence.
Yeah.
Though this is weird, it is also interesting to note that in cases of 911 calls made by people who have been proven to be the murderers of the victim that they're calling for, they will not say the victim's name during the call.
What a coincidence.
Whereas, on the other hand, people who have called and have been proven innocent will in fact say the name of the victim. That's a really weird fact to me. Because never once
subconsciously you're trying to distance yourself from that murder too. Yeah. And so you're going to be like, I found a body, but like, I found my friend blank dead. You know?
Like, let's say I was at you go missing, I make a 911 call, I wouldn't be like, short, blue hair, gone. I'd be like, no, V is gone.
Yeah, like, exactly.
There's just a lot to analyze and look at when you think of a person's first reaction to things.
Yeah. And
granted, again, this could be her innocent and freaking out, maybe because
she was always a little bit distant from her daughter. So like she is still freaking out, but like she doesn't have a very personal connection to her too. Cause like their family situation's always been a little sketchy to me personally. Like I feel like she's always put her daughter as like a vessel to like kind of live her own dreams with. But that's my personal opinions. We don't know for sure. We may never know for sure.
I've seen so many like differing opinions on this. Like some people are like, no, they were best friends and like they dressed identical to each other. And then other people are like, no, like her mom could get angry really fast. It's really hard to tell.
We may never know. That's the thing is, like, I can't say that she was like personally involved or that she's personally wanted to hide anything if she knew anything. Mm-hmm. But there could be reasons why she already had that distance in herself with her daughter in that situation.
That's a really good point. So she could be innocent and just still the natural.
Yeah. Because like that happens too. Is like people like when they have a child, they don't have that natural connection with them. And it does cause like a lot of depression and stuff. And I think at that time, like it would have been hard to like get help for that kind of thing, especially like early 90s. There's a lot of like mid 90s. There's a lot of stigma still about like mental health. So
it's not going to be great. So that definitely would make sense to me. Mm-hmm. I think we can all agree though that both the ransom call and the 911 call are odd.
Yes, the ransom note and the 911 call are very, very weird, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, to be honest. But they happened.
I think for me, it's really the A, not saying her name, and then B, hanging up. That is just weird to me. It could be nothing, but it could. Every piece of evidence in this case, it could be nothing, or it could be literally everything.
It's true. 0 to 100 right here. It's like
I hate this case. I hate this case so much.
They could all truly be completely innocent, or they all could know exactly what happened and let it die with them in their graves.
Exactly. Welcome to our podcast.
Yeah.
So are you ready to go back to the timeline?
Yeah. So, after 5:52 a.m., the Ramseys then called their family and friends. I don't know about how I feel about that. Like, is it like them freaking out and calling them, be like, have you seen my daughter?
No, they're literally calling everyone, telling them to come over.
Oh.
Yeah. It's from
the thing is, like, nowadays, it's like people would put posts up on, like, Facebook being like, have you seen my child?
Yeah.
Amber alerts and everything. And, like, now it's like, they're just like, come over, let's hang out and help me in my distressing moments, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
that's or like, woe is me. Let me be the center of attention in this terrible moment.
I do want to point out that while this investigation kind of gets fucked from the get-go, and you guys will see that really soon, it should be noted that this is the day after Christmas. The police staff that was called in, apparently it's really hard to schedule police the day after Christmas.
I wonder why.
Like, they just been with their families. They don't want to come in. That makes sense. So you're not going to exactly have the AA team there. Protocol might get skirted because people are, their heads somewhere else.
Yeah.
So I think that...
Or they just want to be like, I want to get back home and just get done with this.
Exactly. So I think that definitely contributed a lot to this, as you guys will see.
So at 5:59 a.m., Officer Rick French arrived at the home. After 6 a.m., Officer French searched the basement. He also checked the garage and lower levels of the house, looking for pieces through which the kidnapper might have carried off the child. He found none. The house was messy, but he saw no sign of a struggle. Then after 6 a.m., Officer French failed to search the wine cellar room. He came to a door secured with a wooden latch, and according to police reports, he paused for a moment in front of the door, but walked away. JonBenet Ramsey's body was later found behind this same door. So why did French not open the door? French himself said he didn't open the door to the basement room because he was looking for exits the kidnapper might have used. He noticed the latch was on the wrong side of the door leading out of the house, so he kept moving. I
think it's worse.
Really not the best team to be doing this, really. It's just, he's like, you know what? Not going to even worry about this random-ass door. There's not going to be clues in here. Ain't going to be nothing.
No body to be seen.
Nope, not at all. But then at 6:03 a.m., Fleet and Priscilla White arrive at the Ramsey house. Then after 6:06 a.m., within approximately 10 to 15 minutes of his arrival, Fleet White searched the basement of the Ramsey residence. After it's been searched for a kidnapping exit, I guess.
Can you start to see where people are trampling everywhere?
Right?
Because nothing has been sectioned off.
Right. He noticed that the lights were on, saw the broken window in the train room, and looked for broken glass, and found a small piece of glass. The latch on the window was in the unlocked position, and his impression was that the window was closed. He looked in the wine cellar, but could not see anything, and went back upstairs.
So he actually opened the door and looked in, but it was so dark, and the light switch was in a very weird spot that he couldn't find it, and he didn't see anything, so that's why he closed it back up. Her body was in there.
Jesus.
Yeah. Not great. Not great.
So after 6:06 a.m., Fleet White then searched the train room and saw a window in the basement playroom that was broken. Under the broken window, there was a suitcase along with broken shards of glass. He does not, however, remember whether the window was opened or closed. After 6:06, Fleet White also opened the door to the wine cellar room, but he couldn't see anything inside because it was dark and he couldn't find the light switch. Like you said. So at 6:10, another officer arrives at the home, and contrary to normal protocol, they did not seal off the defendant's home, with the sole exception being the interior of JonBenet's bedroom, which was done later.
10 a.m.
Jesus. In other words, any person in the Ramsey house could and often did move freely throughout the home.
And this means the basement as well.
Especially the basement.
So this will kind of come into play with footprints found. It makes it really difficult when you have a crime scene that is as contaminated as this one was.
Right.
Jesus fucking Christ.
So at 6:45, more officers arrive at the Ramsey home. And then victims advocates arrive at the Ramsey's house, and they are a team trained in helping families through traumatic situations. And then they arrived with bagels and coffee. I want bagels and coffee.
I want bagels and coffee too.
This sounds so good right now.
Call victims advocates, but also don't.
I don't want to call them. So at 6:50, the officers began photographing and fingerprinting areas around the house. Almost an hour later of getting there, they're like, we're going to fingerprint stuff and take pictures now. So after all these people have been in the house, moving around, doing whatever they want.
So granted, these people, they came in, they saw the ransom note. They did assume it was a kidnapping. That's all well and good. Within those kidnapping cases, though, you still treat that area where it happened as the crime scene. And most likely also because Boulder, Colorado didn't get a lot of homicides / kidnappings. And since it was, after Christmas Day, they just, no protocols were followed.
Nope, not at all. Okay. Then, it's just so sad. At 7 a.m., Burke Ramsey is awakened and dressed. And then after 7:13, Fleet White takes Burke Ramsey to his home. And then between 7 and 8 a.m., John Ramsey searched the basement. So John searched the basement area alone and said he found the broken window partially open. Under the broken window, he also saw the same suitcase seen earlier by Fleet White. John testified that the suitcase belonged to his family but was normally stored in a different place, and then he returned upstairs. So then at 7:30 a.m., John Ramsey collected the $118,000 demanded in the ransom note. At 8:10, Detective Linda Arndt, I can't say that, arrived. So Detective Linda Arndt arrives at the Ramsey house. She then monitors incoming phone calls to the Ramsey residence. She also told John Ramsey what to say if the ransomers called, and that he should demand to talk to JonBenet. And then at a time unstated, after using the kitchen, the advocates began tidying it up. One friend helped clean the kitchen, wiping down the counters with a spray cleaner and possibly wiping away important evidence.
I'm going to whip out my own eyeballs. I can get having nervous energy and wanting to clean. This is still a goddamn crime scene, whether you believe it's a kidnapping or not. You don't go down. Let's say the kidnapper went down to the kitchen. There's fingerprints would be down there.
If the kidnapper had to do something to kind of gain JonBenet's trust, he might have been in the kitchen doing making her something to eat, or playing a game with her, or just talking to her, and just leaned against the countertop, put his fingerprint somewhere.
But no, I'm gonna go wipe it down with some Swiffer. God damn! Everything's fine except it's not, because this case is shit.
Really. (10 a.m.) No one mentioned to Detective Arndt that the suspected kidnapper had not called within the designated time period.
Which is very weird. If my child has been kidnapped, the ransom note says they're going to call between 8 and 10 a.m. 10 a.m. hits, I would probably be freaking the fuck out.
I would be too.
The ransom note says not to call the police. So I'm like, oh my God, did they see that I called the police? Because they also didn't arrive in unmarked cars. They arrived in full cop cars, which, if you should believe the note and they're being surveyed, that would make me think, holy shit, they probably killed off my daughter.
Yeah.
You would probably mention that to the detective monitoring the call. God.
Yeah, you would give those details of being I can't have the cops come in their cars. I can't have anyone come in looking like the note says I have to make sure not to call the cops about this. I need to make sure that I get my daughter back, but I need help. But I can't have them know that I called the cops. But no, she just hangs up.
My skit is done. Personal opinion, ignore me.
End scene.
And scene. We are not biased, except that. I'm sorry, guys.
It's like she could be innocent and just been like, her brain was not working. My brain never works. Happens all the time, but like, I feel like those would be important things that I'd be like, I gotta do something about this.
I will say there are a lot of points in this case where, like, you genuinely do not know how you would react.
Yeah, personally, I've never been in this kind of situation. I don't have kids. Someone kidnapped my dog, I would probably John Wick someone, but you know.
Can I John Wick someone with you?
Yeah.
Woohoo. So it's hard to say what people would and wouldn't do. Mostly this is based on like statistics of natural human behavior because there have been many other cases of similar situations.
Yeah.
So when you go off of that, it's easier to say what is and isn't normal. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to say.
We never will know what their normal is, though. That's the thing.
Exactly. There we go.
Because they would have to study how they were before this incident to know for sure how them acting this way would be any kind of deterrent or any different than how they handle stress.
Exactly. Very good point.
Yeah. Because like people deal with things in very different ways.
Absolutely true. So just remember that, guys.
Yeah. Like even though we're joking and like it seems like we're very biased, like we're also open-minded about like she might have been innocent in this whole thing.
Yeah. We want to give you guys the full
picture.
Never
know. Yeah. So at 10:30 a.m., finally, they seal off JonBenet's bedroom.
Wow, gold star, guys.
So the police reports also show the officers did little to protect the integrity of the crime scene. Believing the crime was a kidnapping, the cops sealed off JonBenet's bedroom with yellow and black crime scene tape to preserve whatever evidence her abductors may have left behind. But strangely, they didn't seal the rest of the house, which was also potentially part of that crime scene.
Which is just, again, it's
if
hard
the
to
note
say.
was downstairs, if they had glass in the basement where there's broken windows, I feel like they would have, like, even if they knew that those had been broken previously, they would have, like, sanctioned them off. They should have closed them off still for potential evidence.
With confidence in my heart that if that had been you and me at that scene, go in, be like, wait, like seal the exits, get some tape. No one's going anywhere. I feel like that's a very...
I would personally kick everyone out of the house, but like you have to all leave.
Oh, good point.
And then sanction the house. Be like, we're going, like, or like have them be allowed in only one room, and then be like, this is like we have to search the whole house, close everything off. Like you guys can't touch anything because
you wouldn't even like have to look at the parents as suspects at that point. Just preserve the crime scene.
Yeah. So then at 10:30 a.m., after all that happened, all the additional police officers and victim advocates, other than Detective Arndt and the family members and friends, leave the Ramseys' residence.
I will say this is a very weird move by police. They leave literally one detective to watch everyone there. I feel bad. Because she's like trying to like, imagine you're in this giant ass house, kidnapping's there, you're trying to babysit everyone while doing your job.
4-story house. Yeah. It's such a giant house too. You're wanting to like monitor the phone. You want to check for evidence. That doesn't make sense.
Nope.
So at 10:45 a.m., at 10:45 a.m., representatives from the FBI arrive at the police department.
Sorry, the one before is important.
Oops, sorry, forgot that one.
Oh, you're good, you're good.
Okay, so at 10:40 a.m., John Ramsey left the house and picked up the family's mail. However, this is noted as suspicious as the mail was delivered right into the house through a mail slot by the front door.
So he could have like also gone somewhere else because Detective Art was like, I didn't know where he was for a while because I literally could not see him because I am babysitting everyone else.
That's true. And at 10:45 a.m., that's when the representatives from the FBI arrived at the Boulder Police Department. At a time unstated in the early afternoon, after the forensic team and other officers had packed up and left, Detective Arndt stayed behind to wait with the Ramseys. At 1 p.m., John Ramsey milled anxiously around the living room as Patsy sat John Ramsey milled anxiously around the living room as Patsy sat virtually motionless in a chair. Detective Arndt approaches Fleet White and asks him to occupy John's mind and that both of them should check the house from top to bottom to see if anything was amiss.
Bum, bum, bum. This is where things go to shit.
I bet. I know. So at 1, finally, after this all happened at
6 a.m. Starts at 6 a.m. Sorry,
6 a.m.
45, I guess. I don't know.
It's been 5-6 hours. That's a long time to be going with not doing anything, really.
Yeah.
So John Ramsey and Fleet White searched the basement at 1. Instead of going from top to bottom, John immediately went to the basement floor with Fleet White following. John went straight to the door to the wine cellar. And then at 1:04, that's when JonBenet Ramsey's body was found. John entered the room first, turned on the light, and upon discovery of JonBenet's dead body, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, my baby!" JonBenet had black duct tape covering her mouth, a cord around her neck that was attached to a wooden garrote, and her hands were bound over her head in front of her. Her torso was covered in a light-colored blanket, and John Ramsey ripped the duct tape off JonBenet's mouth and attempted to untie her hands. It was later found that the duct tape had been placed over JonBenet's mouth after she had died, as there was no evidence of her attempting to remove it with her mouth. Jeez.
It's really rough. There's been a lot of speculation about this. It was noted that he did make a pretty clear path for that way. He would have since he lived there, he would have known where the light switch was.
Yeah.
It is suspicious in my mind how he immediately went to the basement when the detectives searched top to bottom.
Yeah.
So take that as you will.
And that he went immediately to the body.
Yes.
As of, okay, I've played innocent long enough. I have no bias. I
feel like you can interpret that as a weird thing.
It's either he had a weird intuition to go right there. We never know. He might have been sensitive.
There we go.
Or he might have known. We don't know.
And when you, in cases like this, you have to analyze everything, which sucks, but that's also important.
You have to keep an open mind about it all.
Yeah.
He could have been innocent. We'll never know.
I think intuition's a good theory.
Intuition could definitely be it. I don't know.
If they'd already searched the basement except for that room, maybe he's like, maybe I should search this room, and since I know where the light switch is, I'll turn that on.
And also that not being so early in the morning in the winter, it'd be easier to look inside that room.
Unless there's no windows in the room she's in.
But in the basement, there would be light coming in from those other windows. So it might have been easier to see into that cellar at 1.
Good point.
So even if they just open the door at 7 in the morning, it's still pretty dark in December.
Yep.
And so they probably wouldn't have seen it. But at 1, there would have been more light coming in, more so. So then you might even see a shadow of it, and then be more inclined to go in and find the body.
Yes.
But, I don't know. I don't know shit.
Do you feel like you guys are getting this?
There's so much shit here.
So much. I apologize.
I don't. So, at 1:05 p.m., that's when Fleet White comes running upstairs and yells for someone to call an ambulance. And then after 1:05, JonBenet Ramsey is carried upstairs. Feelings? Do you have feelings and thoughts about this? Do you want me to continue first before your feelings and thoughts?
Continue first, and then I'll look at my feelings and thoughts.
Because at 1:05, or after 1:05, John ripped that duct tape off of JonBenet Ramsey's mouth, as we've said before, and then carried her up the stairs, setting her down on the floor. Though it's unclear why, Detective Arndt then picked up the body again and moved it to the living room near the Christmas tree, where John knelt beside her, repeating, "My little angel," over and over. Friends carried Patsy, too stunned to walk, over to the body. Then police reports described her throwing herself over JonBenet.
So, here are my thoughts and opinions. Thanks for our podcast. Okay, on one hand, there should have been a detective with him. Let's say he finds the body of the detective. As a parent, that might be your first reaction. I could see that being like, oh my God, my child, maybe she's still alive. Let me go grab her and pick her up. I could see that being a natural instinct, but someone should have been there with him to be like, no, wait. You gotta wait till we can get everyone down here and we can secure it.
What I'm wondering is, why did the detective, was the detective trying to keep him busy by telling him to go top to bottom of the house?
Because he was like,
look around, so he's not so antsy.
Mm-hmm.
And yet he's messing with evidence. He's messing with the body. And I guess they might not have assumed that the body might still be in the house. That might,
based on that ransom note, why would you?
Yeah. I'm like, you have a 3-page ransom note that tells you explicitly that the body is gone, that they have the body.
This is also the only case as well in FBI history where there's been a ransom note and the body is found in the house.
Right.
Fun fact.
Doesn't make sense. Unless, words, bodies.
So maybe he did grab her body to get rid of evidence. That's also possible. I think in this situation, I will personally... Or
your brain just wasn't working and you're like, this is my baby. I got to take care of my baby. I got to grab my baby. But like, even like if you see someone like have a seizure or collapse or have like any kind of medical situation happen, you're not supposed to like touch the body or grab the body, because like you could hurt them more. So even in that situation, you have to wait till like medical professionals come and like take care and like move and make sure that the body is fine, even alive or unalive. That's how it should be.
So it's hard to say. It's hard to say on that one. Jury's out.
It could be just your emotions are running high. You got to do what you got to do. Adrenaline's going. You got to grab the baby, but at the same time, maybe it's just that we know so much more now than they did at 1996.
Yeah. It's rough. So I guess like whatever the reasons were for bringing her body upstairs, we now know the the after effects it is going to cause.
Right.
Holy shit.
You're messing with a lot of things. You're losing a lot of evidence to what could have truly happened. Unless that's what you're wanting to do. Anyways, so after 1:05 p.m., Detective Arndt quickly called for backup, declaring a code black, which means murder, over the radio. And the forensic science team returned to the house. Detective Arndt also ordered someone to cover JonBenet's body with a blanket, but her feet were still uncovered, so they were... Words are hard. Okay, I'm going to just do that all over again. So Detective Arndt quickly called for backup, declaring a code black, which means murder, over the radio. And the forensics team returned to the house. Detective Arndt also ordered someone to cover JonBenet's body with a blanket, but her feet were still uncovered, so they were then covered with a sports jersey.
That's my bad buzzer noise. So, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, fun fact about DNA. So, I don't know why they covered her with a blanket. I genuinely don't.
Is her body cold? That might have something to do with something else.
She has been dead for a few hours. Rigor mortis is set in. She's still clothed. So here's the thing. everything previously on that blanket, whether it's fibers, hairs, skin cells, when that is put on her body, that is now contaminated. Whatever was on that blanket before is now on her body, and that's going to get intermingled with other DNA. It makes me so infuriated. She's a detective. I don't know why she covered the body with a blanket. I don't know why.
It doesn't make sense.
It's really frustrating. It's, again, one of those moves in the case where you're like, it's like you're watching a bad film, and it's worse and worse.
It's like a really bad comedy that shouldn't. That's just the timing is off on everything.
Mm-hmm.
At 1:40 p.m., 20 minutes later, after Detective Arndt moves the body, John is overheard placing a phone call to his pilot to ready the plane to head for Atlanta. Police instruct them not to leave town, so they stay at a friend's home in Boulder.
I love this because the police have to pull him aside and be like, we just found your daughter who's dead. Y'all can't leave town for a sec, sir.
I'm like, why would you plan to leave the state after finding your dead daughter's body? You would be like,
I don't know.
You would probably be like, who fucking killed my daughter? I need to find out who did it. I need to see that person and make sure that they get justice, or my daughter gets justice for what happened to her. You'd be seeking vengeance. You would be John Wicking this whole situation.
You would. So you guys can, like, I've seen debate on that too, where, like, Atlanta was their other home, and that's actually where she ended up being buried. So maybe it's like that need to go home, but then would you bring her body with you immediately? It's the timing for me. It's the timing for me.
It's the timing for it all. Like, I get you want to get out of the situation, but also
take a break outside.
Yeah, I'm like, don't leave out of state once your daughter is gone.
Like, y'all.
Like, you just found her body. She was apparently kidnapped.
Turns out it's
murder. You find her body, and you're just like, I need to leave town. Why? So no, you'd be like, detectives, find out who killed her. That's what but we don't know how their minds work, so maybe they are just the kind of cowards who just leave places and don't want to face reality.
So I guess, like, you guys can decide if that's suspicious or not. Either way, it feels like a weird parental move, if anything.
I personally think it's very suspicious.
It's just 20 minutes after the body is found. It doesn't look great on you doing that. Not.
Like, sure, I like to escape my situations as much as any other person.
If you found my dead body, would you immediately go back to Florida?
No.
Good.
I would tell the detectives, I would shake them, be like, find who killed her, so then I can kill them.
I'll speak to you through the spirit box and through tarot cards.
I would be like, I gotta go home, grab my tarot cards, come back, get some candles. If the police and detectives would let me grab your spirit box, then I would use it, or I'll go and buy one online.
But you can use Alex's.
Or I could use Alex's.
Unless she killed me. I don't know.
I can't see that.
Me neither.
She seems too soft.
I don't think she could murder.
I don't think so.
I think I'm more capable of murder than she would be. You feel?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Welcome to Tipsy Mysteries.
Hi.
Hi, where were we?
We're joking.
We're joking.
But out of all three of us, I think I'm the most likely to. Out of the three of us, I would be the most likely to.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be good at revenge killing.
Yeah. I am that kind of person that in the passion of it all, I would do it.
So if I could plan it out enough and not get caught, but if I get caught, it's worse because it's definitely premeditated.
I would only get second degree. Cheers. Unless you listen to this and then
it's a joke.
It's a joke.
Back to our dead 6-year-old. Oh, why did we do this case?
I don't like that choice of wording.
Neither do I. I would like to delete
Choice of
myself.
words. Yeah.
I'd like
At
to
least
delete-
you never said flesh cabinet.
Did you say flesh cabinet?
I'll tell you about that later on.
I'm scared.
No.
Back to our homicide.
Back to the homicide. Yes. So at 1:45 p.m., the Ramseys left their homes to stay with their neighbors. And then at 1:50 p.m., did I say a.m.? Anyways, 1:50 p.m., it was upon the discovery of JonBenet's body that the Boulder police began to secure properly the home as the crime scene.
A little too fucking late.
A little too late. A little bit too late. And so at approximately the same time, another detective talked to Burke Ramsey at the White's house as Burke had reportedly slept through the events of the previous night. Then John Ramsey then hires an attorney, and later that night, the police obtained a search warrant for the Ramseys' home.
Hooey. Are you guys ready to hear about the autopsy?
Should we take a small little break before the autopsy?
How much more do we have? Oh my god. Why did you let me do so many notes?
I couldn't help it.
Let's see. Is that
Because I'm like at the halfway point.
the halfway point?
I think so.
Yeah. We will take a small little break, guys.
Yes.
We'll be right
We'll be
back.
right
And record. And we're back.
Oh, I'm still around.
I've put
Yep,
my
I'm still here.
hair in a ponytail and we went to the bathroom. So we're doing great.
And I brought gummy bears.
I want some.
They're spooky flavors because they're Halloween ones. Because they were 15 cents.
I love that so much.
I was so poor.
We'll bring your gummies, bud.
Oh no!
Yes.
Oh,
So where were we?
The
Are
autopsy.
you ready for the autopsy?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I don't know how other podcasters, like true crime podcasters, do it. Going through autopsy notes and photos is not a fun time. It's really not fun. This stuff was hard to read. It gets a little rough, guys. I'll tell you that right now.
It's why I'm just like, I'm going to use Wikipedia. I'm not going to I'm not going to dive too deep into this because then I will not sleep. I will not be able to think.
Point out. Yep, that is
Like I've seen like all of these pictures before. I've seen many autopsy photos for different things. I'm just like, nope, don't want this anymore.
Yeah, the photos are really rough.
Uh-huh.
Because again, this is a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
So everything's fine. I'm gonna cut off all my hair.
Are you going to?
No, maybe.
Really?
I don't know. We'll
I'm
see.
like-
To be determined.
You want to cut your hair? You want to cut hair?
Let's see.
You want to cut some hair? I'm always down to get a haircut.
Good enough. All right. Without further ado, let me read you these autopsy reports. So, John E. Meyer, MD, was the pathologist who conducted the autopsy on JonBenet. According to his report, JonBenet measured 47 inches in length and weighed approximately 45 pounds, with blonde hair and green eyes. She was wearing a small gold ring on one of her fingers, and on the palm of her left hand, a heart was drawn in red ink. She was also wearing a gold cross necklace around her neck. She was found wearing a long-sleeved white shirt with a sequined silver star on the chest. On the sleeve, there was some dry mucus, probably from her nose or mouth. She wore matching white knit long johns. Her underwear was soiled with urine and what is described as several areas of red staining. Her injuries were extensive. She had several abrasions on the side of her face, between her ear and her jaw, and broken blood vessels near her eyes. There's also several small dark circles that police at one point thought might be marks made by a taser gun. though this was never proven and no stun gun was ever recovered. So that's another thing that's really in question.
Another theory that people had.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that, guys. Whew. She had a skull fracture and bleeding in the brain as well as bruising on her brain. He also noted He also noted a white cord tying her wrists together and a similar kind of white cord wrapped around her neck and double knotted around a wooden stick fashioned to be a garrote. So if you guys don't know what that is, basically imagine there is a cord around my neck. In the back of the strings are tied to a wooden stick. If you twist that stick, it'll then cut off my air. It'll then strangle me.
Jeez.
That's what was on her. It's not great. It's really not great. So the wooden stick was actually found to be a broken paintbrush from Patsy's art kit.
Oof.
Which was very weird.
Yeah, it's very personal that there's like most of that this is a personal item that was used to make what killed her.
I mean, I don't know where the art stuff was stored. Maybe it was.
It might have been in the basement. But it seems very uncomfortable how someone could have went in and configured all this up and murdered her with it.
Yeah, it's just it's whole case. Ugh, so the cord had been tied like a noose rather than tightly wound, and as a result had been caught in her hair, making Meyer cut away those pieces of hair in order to remove the cord.
Oof.
This cord, it was really, really into her skin as well. Ooh, so when the white synthetic cord had been removed, Meyer noticed a deep furrow circling her neck, where it had cut into her skin, and was a purplish rust-colored abrasion. She had similar abrasions on her lower back, with some scratch-like abrasions on the back of her left leg.
Oof.
So it was really rough. So there was no evidence of conventional rape, although sexual assault could not be ruled out. Although no semen was found, there was evidence that there had been a vaginal injury. At the time of the autopsy, the pathologist recorded that it appeared her vaginal area had been wiped with a cloth. These findings suggest that at the time of her death, she had actually been sexually assaulted. And while the pathologist found no signs of chronic sexual abuse, so that would be sexual abuse that would have been occurring over a long period of time, so he didn't find evidence of that. He did, however, find evidence that she experienced some kind of sexual trauma at least a few days before her death, as there appeared to be a small abrasion on her hymen. All of her major organs were normal for a 6-year-old, but Meyer did note that her bladder was empty, leading many to believe that she had wet the bed that night. Also, given the urine on her underwear as well.
Yeah.
But the one piece of evidence found inside JonBenet's body that remains a mystery were the contents of her stomach and small intestines. Meyer found undigested pineapple in her stomach. This was of note because her parents told investigators they had not given her any pineapple, and there was none at the party they had attended earlier in the night. Yet at the Ramsey home, there was an unfinished bowl of pineapple that had been found in the kitchen. We'll get more on that later. So after completing an evaluation of the findings, as well as running toxicology reports that showed no drugs of any kind in JonBenet's system, Dr. Meyer ruled that the cause of the death was asphyxia by strangulation associated with craniocerebral trauma. The autopsy report concluded that she was alive before she was asphyxiated by strangulation, and that she actually fought off her attacker in some manner based on the scratches that appear around her neck, meaning that JonBenet was strangled either to death or to the point near death, and then was hit in the head with a blunt object either at the time or very shortly after. So this is all confirmed by autopsy findings. Her time of death was actually never officially stated due to the crime scene and handling of the body, and that became difficult to determine. The best estimates would be anytime from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That's a pretty big window.
That is a very big window. That's 8 hours right there.
Yeah. Though due to the level of rigor mortis in her body, it was more likely that she died anytime between midnight and 4 a.m.
So before they found the note about the kidnapping, she was already dead.
Yes.
Very suspicious.
It's really rough. So, following the incident on December 31st, a funeral was held for JonBenet as she was laid to rest in Marietta, Georgia. It has been noted that she was buried in one of her pageant gowns along with one of her tiaras.
That's so sad. I mean,
mixed feelings on that. Personally, I don't know.
I'm like, she might have been super happy doing pageants. And so that might be a great way to let her go.
That's true.
Dressed in her best gown.
I guess if you have the other half, though.
If that wasn't the life that she wanted to live.
That'd suck.
Yeah.
So,
and to always be remembered as a pageant girl. But she never really got to live out any other kind of life, which is sad.
It is really sad. And I guess like another note, the autopsy, while I'm here.
Yeah.
So apparently the coroner didn't even realize she had a skull fracture until later on because there wasn't any bleeding. Instead, the bleeding was inside on the brain and the bruising was there as well. And so they actually had to remove back of her skin on her skull to see how far and deep it was. And it was actually a pretty it was a bad fracture. If you look at pictures, which don't
don't do it.
Don't do it. It's bad. It's something blunt and something heavy are the only things that could have made that fracture that big. Really rough all around. Super fun.
So, you should also probably edit in a trigger about the sexual trauma and abuse.
Oh, okay. So, wow, brain. So, trigger warning. Just so
you are aware.
The autopsy does include points of possible sexual trauma and assault. So, if that's not your jam, skip forward. I totally get it.
And once we edit this, we could also try to add it into like the notes of where to skip to.
Oh, good point.
So in the description, hopefully by the time that this is all edited and finished, and the description will also have it added, the point to skip to once to finish listening about the actual triggerings about the sexual assault that has happened.
Good point. We'll do
yes, because I forgot about that until we were talking about it. I'm like, that's a thing that we need to make sure that we bring up because that would fucking suck for someone to be like, JonBenet, oh shit, what the fuck? Didn't know that.
Is it bad that I just became desensitized to that?
Ugh. No, because I am also desensitized to that because of my own traumas.
Oh, mine was just looking at reports of hymen sizes.
It's me just being like, that probably happened to me. I don't care anymore.
Cheers, no cheers.
Is that my way of dealing with my trauma? Is by acting like it doesn't exist and never really facing it?
And that's perfectly good.
That was healthy, right?
Guys, we just went to town on her wine. Feeling that. Are you guys ready to hear about the investigation? So, experts, media commentators, and the Ramseys have identified potential suspects in the case. Boulder police initially focused almost exclusively upon John and Patsy, but by October 1997 had over 1,600 people in their index of persons of interest in the case.
That's way too many people interested in this case.
Crazy. It's bonkers.
That's a lot of people to be like, they could have murdered her. They could have kidnapped and murdered her.
There's so many angles you can go from in this case.
There's
sense.
Truly from the fact that she's been such a popular figure. Not like figure, but like she's a popular, almost like an icon in that town. That their family was so well known that they had a party not so long ago with thousands of people inside their home. Like, she was seen like in televised and
Oh, she was in tons of pageants. She did tons of performances at the mall, at her school, at like all these very public places. So it is very possible that
it could easily be someone from outside the family who just tried to take her and then things just went wrong, or was obsessed with her and things went wrong. And there's so many, there could have been a kidnapping that went wrong and they left the note forgetting about it. But we just don't know because there's so many options and so many ways that they should have looked into this. But
so I do wish they would have looked more into the intruder theory. Right. I understand why their initial suspicion fell on the Ramseys. I do.
It makes sense.
But like when you are a detective like that, you do have to look at all the sides.
You can't be biased. That's why we're not detectives.
Exactly. Cheers.
Cheers.
Clink.
Clink.
Upon arriving at the initial crime scene, the Boulder Police Department had made crucial errors that compromised the investigation.
Crucial.
So many. Among the mistakes made, John was allowed to move his daughter's body from the basement, which led a total of 4 different people touching the body. Evidence was both lost and contaminated as the house wasn't treated as a crime scene, and the fact that police shared evidence with John and Patsy, and the two were not interviewed separately during the initial questioning. That gets me. At this point, okay, statistically, you have a kidnapping. Statistics show that it could be one of the parents. As a police officer, you should have that in your mind. Maybe they did it. You shouldn't be sharing this evidence with them, because let's say you need to question them later. You have a potentially like thing that could prove or disprove something. If you share the evidence with them, like they can adjust their story accordingly.
Exactly. And like also, if you interview them separately, you could catch when if they trip up or if their stories do match up, especially so early into the investigation when they don't have time to be thinking of like ways to make their stories cohesive if there is a story to be making up, or they would be able to be like, okay, like these two are probably in the clear, like their stories match up, and they're just obviously going through shock if they're forgetting certain little things, but everything kind of lines up to how it should be in this situation.
So initial questioning really would have benefited both sides, quite honestly.
Yeah.
It's rough.
But you know what? We're not the professionals here.
No.
We're just going to let them do what they need to do, I guess. Just let people touch all those bodies and move everything and
leave your footprints every fucking where.
Oh, yeah. Just clean the kitchen.
All the above. It's all terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So, after the discovery of JonBenet's body, the Ramseys refused to be interviewed by police. Then, a few days later, the Ramseys actually appeared on CNN, confirming that John and Patsy had hired an attorney and that John had also hired a private investigator. It should be noted that they were, in fact, paid for this interview, and beforehand, they actually gave a list of questions that could be asked. That's interesting to me. It's weird. Though in this interview, it is clear that Patsy was on Valium, as she appears to be out of it and sluggish. Though this is to be expected as someone who just lost their child.
That makes sense.
Like you've seen the interview. She's you can tell she's out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Her words are slurring. She's not completely there.
Yeah.
Which, that does make sense to me. What doesn't make sense is not going to police questioning and then
going on like
CNN.
Yeah, like national television to be like, my daughter. But I won't answer the cops, but I'll tell you about my daughter and her murder.
And this actually did cause more panic among the among that community, because Patsy was like, hold your babies close. There's someone out there. And there's like, maybe don't say that because we don't know if this is a serial killer or not.
Yeah.
So just all around.
Are you going to get like people who are going to copycat that serial killer for that kind of fame? And then someone who would rather like be like, you know what? I'm going to do the exact same thing that happened to her, yet change it up as I keep continuing to do it. And then they think that this copycat might have killed her, and then they're like, nope. And then we'll never know exactly who did it. Do I think too much? I think too much.
It's okay. We've got a podcast. That's what it's for.
Nice.
So, in the subsequent 4 years, no major leads were made, although the Ramseys became the main suspects.
Mm-hmm.
Much of the public viewed the parents as guilty after hearing about evidence that did not paint them in the most innocent light. So this would be John and Patsy not giving consistent stories. They gave a lot of inconsistent stories, I will say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a lot. Their media appearances made them appear culpable, and the cryptic ransom note soon became a focal point for those who believed the Ramseys were guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking at just those pieces of evidence, it is easy to see how it would fall on them. But you need to take into account everything.
Mm-hmm.
It is interesting, though, because in December of 1999, the Boulder grand jury actually voted to indict John and Patsy on child endangerment and obstruction of a murder investigation. However, the Boulder District Attorney, Alex Hunter, decided not to charge them, as he felt that the evidence did not meet the beyond a reasonable doubt standard and declined to prosecute. So basically he's like, no. So a jury's like, hey, we want to indict these guys on basically child neglect charges. And he's like, not enough evidence. I'm not going to bring it forward to trial. But you also have to take into account what evidence was shown to this jury. We don't quite know. Because usually
I get to see all of it too. So
no, usually in those cases where they'll basically have a jury decide if a case should go to trial or not. This was that case. The defendant isn't there. It's only the prosecutor. So I will say, take that one more with a grain of salt. It is interesting.
That makes it very hard to like actually try to push for a trial if they're not there.
Exactly.
It seems like everything that could go wrong did go wrong.
This entire fucking case. Blah, 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 blah. So Mary Lacey, the next Boulder County District Attorney, she took over the investigation from police in 2002. She agreed with a federal judge who also looked over the case that evidence in the suit was more consistent with the theory that an intruder murdered JonBenet rather than the theory that it was Mrs. Ramsey who did it. Later in 2000,
I don't think she did it.
Given all the evidence,
I'll go into my theories later.
Don't worry, guys. We'll get there. So later in 2006, Patsy actually succumbed to ovarian cancer at the age of 49.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a bummer. So when it comes to DNA in this case, are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 points of contact. So these are like the 3 points of DNA that are most
prominent.
Most prominent and most used as evidence. So the first, there was DNA taken from JonBenet's fingernail clippings that were taken during the autopsy. It revealed male DNA that did not match any of the Ramseys. However, it should be noted that the coroner did not follow standard protocol and used the same nail clippers on each nail. This same nail clipper had also been used on other people, making this DNA evidence very questionable. No one follows protocol. No one, apparently.
Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. This poor girl deserves justice.
Yeah,
and to get like as close as we can to the truth for her. And yet we can't do that. Boulder. I can't believe. Boulder, what the fuck?
I'm sure it's better now. Boulder in 1996, what the fuck?
Right, yeah.
Like this just maybe it's not stuff you'd think of in the moment, but if you are trained in this protocol, I would think you would follow it because there's a reason why it's there, most likely, especially in, crime and forensic cases.
Right. Especially on a case like this. That's such a sensitive subject where everything is so gray and you're like, this could give us a little bit of light to know if there's any color, any darkness, any lightness. No, it's all gray now. Everything is gray.
Like that DNA under the fingernails could have been huge. That
Been.
could have been taken as very good evidence. But no. So next, there was the touch DNA that was recovered from her long johns. This is DNA that is usually left behind by skin cells. Investigators used this DNA profile as they moved forward and tested it against potential suspects. So this is like their main fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's garbage. Because of the results of this DNA test, the Ramsey family members were excluded as suspects in the case. And then in 2008, Mary Lacey publicly exonerated the Ramseys and even gave the family a formal apology. Which is all well and good. But as you will see, this DNA is garbage.
Yep.
So the touch DNA found on her clothing was entered into CODIDS, which is the National DNA Database, but no matches were able to be identified. So no one knows who it is. However, this DNA evidence also comes into question, as her long johns were not only touched by multiple people upon finding her body, remember?
Mm-hmm.
But she was also covered with both the blanket and the jersey after her body was brought upstairs.
Exactly.
So they are taking this touch DNA profile from the top of those long johns that are contaminated at this point.
Yeah.
So this contaminated the DNA evidence, as any hair or skin cells that were on those pieces previously are now on her body and long johns, and thus becoming part of the DNA profile. Really frustrating. So
That's super frustrating.
Yeah. In 2010, the case was officially reopened with a renewed focus on the DNA samples. Further testing has been conducted on the samples, and experts now believe the sample was actually from 2 individuals rather than 1. Which, maybe that's the case.
Maybe there was 2 people involved.
Yeah.
I'm like, you did tell me earlier that there was like 7 people who had keys to the house.
Oh yeah, there's 7 people who had fucking keys to the house. All
that
their
were
neighbors.
not part of the family. Yeah, that weren't part of the family. They had access to get into this house. So it could have been some person who got access to those keys and did all this and left without making a noise.
I believe it.
There's no sign of struggle of breaking and entering because they just came in through the door, maybe. And we'll never know because so many people also came in through those doors within all those hours.
Stomp, stomp. Should I put a trigger warning for the stuff with her underwear?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Trigger warning for this next part. It goes into details with DNA found with JonBenet's underwear. So, this DNA evidence came from testing that was done on JonBenet's underwear.
Mm-hmm.
Think back to the autopsy where it stated that her underwear had both urine staining as well as several areas of red staining. It was found that there was actually unknown DNA on the underwear intermingled with the body stains, with the blood stains that were from JonBenet. So that was her blood.
Mm-hmm.
And the intermingled DNA did not match any of the Ramseys. So,
so if there was questions about the sexual assault being from the family, that would pretty much say, like, no, it wasn't part of the family that did it. Though we can't really say too much about that.
Let's see. I will add this here so it's part of that same trigger warning.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, this is very, very, very questionable because the source of that unknown DNA on her underwear remains unidentified. But Dr. Henry Lee, he had brought forth the theory that the unknown DNA could have actually come from the person who manufactured the underwear.
Ooh, that's true.
So he actually proved this theory by testing an unopened package of underwear and found that there was indeed unknown DNA on them. This is also it was also reported by Patsy early on in the case that she usually didn't wash the new underwear before giving them to JonBenet. So meaning she would just buy those packs of underwear and then she would just give them to JonBenet, which that makes sense to me.
Especially since JonBenet also had a
bedwetting problem.
So
that would line up.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Exactly. So So I think it's more likely it's easier to discount that piece of DNA.
That's true.
So, in 2015, Boulder Police Chief Mark Beckner disagreed with exonerating the Ramseys, stating, quote, exonerating anyone based on a small piece of evidence that has not yet been proven to be even connected to the crime is absurd. Agreed.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Mm-hmm. He also stated that the unknown DNA from JonBenet's clothing, quote, has got to be the focus of the investigation, end quote. At this point in time, and until one can prove otherwise, the suspect is the donor of that unknown DNA. So that's what he said, which makes sense. I think it would make so a lot of experts on this case have said that you can sort of use the DNA, but you really can't use this DNA to like match or discount suspects in this case.
That's true.
You really can't.
You can narrow things down, but you can't just be like, okay, you're out.
Exactly. Because it comes so much into question. It's not great.
There's so many other things that can go into account for what actually happened.
It's bonkers. So in 2016, Gordon Combs, a former investigator on the case, also questioned the total absolution of the Ramseys, stating, quote, we all shed DNA all the time within our skin cells. It can be deposited anywhere at any time for various reasons. Reasons that are benign. To clear somebody just on the premise of touch DNA, especially when you have a situation where the crime scene wasn't secure at the beginning, really is a stretch. Agreed. And then Stephen E. Pitt, who was a forensic psychiatrist hired by Boulder authorities, said, quote, Lacey's public exoneration of the Ramseys was a big slap in the face to Chief Beckner and the core group of detectives who have been working on the case for years, end quote.
Yeah, makes sense.
If you found a bigger piece of evidence that cleared the Ramseys, go for it, clear them.
If you had multiple things that cleared them.
Other than just one small piece that is very questionable.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so frustrating. Like, Mary Lacey really kind of, she makes me a little bit angry because it's
just a little bit angry.
She had also there was still police on the force that wanted to further investigate the Ramseys because they still found it suspicious and there wasn't any more leads. And she told them, no, you can't investigate them. And then they were then kicked off the case.
What?
Yeah.
That's fucked up. That makes no sense unless they're trying to hide something.
It really does point to that. Like,
it makes it sound like you're trying to hide something. You're not wanting this to be taken. Like, you don't want this to actually be solved as like unless there's like something bigger happening. I am being very biased in my situation here. Sorry.
Like, I'm trying to think how else you could explain that. I guess, like, if you have a case that's been going on for a few years, you finally get this sort of break that seems like a break with the DNA, and you're able to finally, in your mind, like, weed out suspects. That would probably be pretty fucking cool.
Mm-hmm.
But just to completely exonerate them based on such a small piece of evidence. I don't think that's standard procedure. Is it?
Mm-mm.
That
shouldn't be.
That doesn't seem normal to me.
It shouldn't be.
So that comes into a lot of question in my mind, whether it is anything or not. Yeah. It's strange either way. Oh, how much more do we have? Good Lord.
Quite a bit.
Wow. Okay, so next we are going to talk more about the intruder theory. So there are 3 different types of intruder theories that go with this case. The first one is that a stranger intruder who would be someone completely unknown to or by the family. The next is the acquaintance intruder, which would be someone loosely connected to the family who selected the Ramseys for a particular motivation, whether it's revenge or targeting JonBenet because she had been seen in a beauty pageant.
Mm-hmm.
So such theories do not necessarily denote a premeditated killing, but relative to stranger intrusive theories generally imply more of a planning premeditation regarding entry into the Ramsey household in particular. Meaning someone planned it out. And then there are the friendly intruder theories that involve someone well known to the family and JonBenet herself. Someone who may have even gained access to the house on the night of December 26th on friendly terms. But it also includes adults who are friends or close acquaintances of John or Patsy Ramsey who might have had an exploitative rather than friendly relationship with JonBenet. So, this could have been a kidnapping gone wrong. There are several theories that have advanced, with perps ranging from, adolescents or inexperienced kidnappers to more experienced kidnappers taken by surprise by JonBenet's scream. So evidence.
I'm sorry, if you're experienced, you shouldn't be surprised at a kid screaming that you're going to kidnap them.
I don't fucking know. So for evidence for a kidnapping gone wrong, there was a baseball bat not owned by the Ramseys found on the north side of the house that had fibers consistent with the fibers found in the carpet in the basement where JonBenet's body was found. It was also noted that there was a boot print found close to JonBenet's body that did not belong to any of the Ramseys. And this will kind of come more in with one of the suspects. Detective Lou Schmidt stated that he believed that the killer had started out with a kidnapping in mind, as there was some evidence to suggest that he did perhaps try to put her in a suitcase. He theorized that she screamed and this triggered something in the kidnapper to then kill JonBenet in a very brutal fashion. Others have argued that this is the work of adolescents who mistakenly thought that they could make some easy money. The language of the ransom note and numerous references to movie lines are used to support this claim. Though it can also be done the other way, like everything else in this case.
True.
So, evidence against the kidnapping gone wrong. An FBI agent working on the case has stated that it is unlikely that a kidnapper was involved, as it is extremely rare for a kidnapper to take a child from their own house. This greatly elevates their risk of detection and also possibly leaves behind incriminating evidence.
Yeah, usually kidnappings happen usually in very public areas too.
Like parks, you're riding your bike, who knows?
Yeah, when you're outside by yourself or in a very crowded mall or something, crowded places, or you're very alone and there's no one to see what's happening.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And then others have argued why a kidnapping gone wrong scenario is inconsistent with the available forensic evidence, and that there was no plan or effort to get JonBenet out of the house. So, would you like to go over our first suspect?
Let me do it.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Okay. First one we have is the town Santa. So we have Bick. Who the fuck is Bick? Bill McReynolds, now deceased, was a friend of the Ramseys who had dressed up as Santa Claus the week before JonBenet's murder to entertain the neighborhood children at one of Patsy's famous Christmas gatherings. While an older man dressed as Santa makes an interesting suspect in this case, the possibility that the now deceased McReynolds had anything to do with JonBenet's death is extremely unlikely. McReynolds was rumored to have paid a little too much attention to JonBenet, going so far as to tell JonBenet that she'd receive a secret visit from Santa Claus after Christmas. McReynolds had said that JonBenet had given him a vial of glitter that she had called Christmas magic. He said that in all the years he'd played Santa, no other child had given him a gift before. The gift meant a lot to him, and he even brought the vial of glitter with him into open heart surgery. Though strangely, he asked his wife to mix the glitter in with his ashes after he died. While this request seemed very odd, it can also be added up to the actions of friendly old man, as no evidence was ever found that could link him to the crime scene.
So I will say with the visit she said she'd receive, it was I think a few days before Christmas. She was at a friend's house. And the mom was like, "Oh, are you guys excited for Christmas?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'm going to see Santa after Christmas." She's like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Oh, Santa said he'd give me an extra visit after Christmas." So that could be interpreted one way. It could also interpret it as, I've seen other theories of people like, let's say JonBenet's like, oh, when will I see you? And the guy's like, Christmas. And she's like, no, after Christmas. And he's like, I'll get
I guess so.
visit.
Yeah, you're not gonna just tell a 6-year-old like, no.
When you're just a Santa,
You're not gonna break a little girl's heart if she asks you to see her after Christmas, or that she wants to see Santa Claus more often than that.
Exactly. So I think it was more like a white lie.
Yeah, and like also,
I don't know
if he died much later after, like, I don't think I said like when he died, but like if that like kind of like stuck with him for a long time, and that was like the last thing that she had or he had of her, and that's the last thing that she had given him, and it had been such a sentimental thing, and to have that heartbreaking, like, I knew this child that went way too fast. It makes sense that like he would have a soft spot for her and be like, when I die, like, I want to have her glitter mixed with my ashes, because then that way I can protect her from what's happened, or like in the afterlife, you know? Like, it doesn't have to be like a very creepy, like, oh, like I'm wanting this little girl, the 6-year-old. Like, it doesn't say that to me personally.
No,
like, it could have. I can't say that it's impossible, but to me, it could also be a very innocent, this girl deserved to have been protected during this time, and her family didn't do that as well as they should have or could have, and so now I can protect her in the afterlife, and I want her with me.
Yeah. So like, you could interpret it that as, creepy, but it's off the bat more just sentimental.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be creepy.
All right, let's see.
So we have
the house. Let's see. Do you want to do?
Do you want me to continue? Well, okay. Yeah, we can alternate.
Yeah. Okay, so next we have the housekeeper. So Linda Hoffman Pugh had worked for the family as their housekeeper, and her husband Mervyn was their handyman. So it wasn't surprising that she was known to carry a key to the home, along with 7 other people, apparently. And during the investigation of JonBenet's murder, Hoffman Pugh didn't even fit the profile the police were after, which was a white male, former convict, 25 to 30 years old, based off of what they're going off of the time.
I'm like, where did they get that profile from?
I don't know. I think just like going off of, here's a ransom note and here's like how violent the crime was, kind of thing. That makes sense.
Okay.
But she didn't hold back on voicing her suspicions that Patsy Ramsey had accidentally killed JonBenet. It is often said that Patsy claimed to investigators that Hoffman Pugh was struggling for money and had asked for a loan of several $1,000s, which the Ramseys had declined. This is in fact untrue.
Huh.
I don't know why every source reports it as that they didn't give her money, because they did give her the loan. I don't know why. So what they did is So the truth is that Hoffman Pugh and her husband had experienced both dental and car emergencies, and these things were sudden and expensive. So she asked the Ramseys for a $2,000 loan, which the Ramseys gave her. The agreement was that they would take $200 out of her paycheck until it was paid back. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
She actually had a pretty good job working for them, and she had worked there for a number of years. So, yet Patsy did name her as a suspect, so the police showed up at Hoffman Hugh's home that night after the murder and asked the 57-year-old housekeeper to write the number 180,000 on a piece of paper, and reportedly took her fingerprints and several strands of her hair. She then testified in front of a grand jury for a total of 8 hours, including a statement against Patsy that read, quote, I think she has multiple personalities. She'd be in a good mood, and then she'd be cranky. She got into arguments with JonBenet about wearing a dress or about a friend coming over. I had never seen Patsy so upset, end quote. The Hoffman Pugh theory asserted that the housekeeper led a trusting JonBenet down to the basement that night in an attempt to trick her employees into leaving money for her ransom. It is possible that she could have seen John Ramsey's pay stub for the bonus, and chosen as command. Familiar with both the home and the family schedule, Hoffman Pugh makes a convenient suspect and without an alibi because she was asleep in her bed while her husband allegedly slept on the couch. There is room to speculate that she could have been involved. So far, all evidence implicating her in the case is circumstantial at best, and she has never been formally accused of the crime. So it seemed like Patsy accused her first, and then a few years later, in retaliation, she accused Patsy back. So
that makes
take
sense.
that as you will.
We'll never know.
I don't know.
Whew. So, the town drifter. So, Gary Oliva was a 32-year-old known sex offender in Boulder, Colorado. The convicted pedophile had been living in the area on and off while police allegedly found a picture of JonBenet Ramsey, as well as a poem he had written titled Ode to JonBenet in his backpack. I am like, that's creepy.
That's so good.
He was, and they found that after he was apprehended on a drug charge in 2000. He was soon released, but the suspicion still remained. The Ramseys' family longtime private investigator, Ollie Gray, once referred to Oliva's ties to JonBenet as a bombshell arrest in the case and lambasted the Boulder Police Department for failing to consider him as a more credible suspect. Soon after, Oliva's high school friend Michael Vale stepped forward with an allegation supporting Gray's suspicion. Vale claimed that not long after the murder, a distraught Oliva had called him on the phone and confessed to his longtime pal, saying, "I hurt a little girl. I hurt a little girl." Vale revealed that he was particularly unsettled by how the knots used to fashion a garrote that strangled JonBenet was similar to those used in the incident where Oliva attempted to choke his mother with a telephone cord. "My blood ran cold when I read that," recalled Vale. Oliva was also rumored to have possible connections to a theory that links the mark found on JonBenet's body to an encounter with a stun gun. Oliva had one on him at the time of his initial arrest. While he too was cleared by DNA testing for the JonBenet murder, he was recently charged with 2 counts of sexual exploitation of a child for possessing child pornography.
Let's see, what are my thoughts on this one?
Very possible.
Very possible.
I'm like, you can't just say that it wasn't just some random person that got into the house at some point.
It is also interesting that it was noted that he Jesus fuck.
He used the same kind of knots, and his friend got that phone call.
Yeah, and when his friend was like, "Where?" he said, "Colorado." And that night, no other girl except for JonBenet had been hurt. That is a bit more telling, in my opinion.
Very true.
So he seems probable to me, quite honestly.
Very true.
So next we have the electrician. So another potential suspect was an electrician named Michael Helgoth, who worked in an auto salvage yard near the Ramseys' family home, and had a history of violence and sexual abuse. He also allegedly told a friend that he and a business partner would be making $50,000 to $80,000 around the time of the murder, roughly half the amount asked for in the ransom note.
Mm-hmm.
It was also said that the boot print found near JonBenet's body was similar to Helgoth's. The district attorney announced that he had narrowed down a list of suspects in January of 1997. 2 days later, Helgoth was found dead in an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. However, Helgoth remains cleared by both DNA and death. So with this one, the boot print, it was from a boot, like the brand was High-Tech.
Mm-hmm.
He had those same boots. They were never able to determine the size of the boot based on the print.
Yeah.
It was like kind of a partial print. But the way that the district attorney announced it was like, "We are narrowing down the suspects. We are coming for you, the killer." But here's the thing. They actually don't know if it was a suicide. When he was found, he had a bullet wound to his chest, and the gun was found in his non-dominant hand.
Interesting, because that doesn't make sense.
Very weird, huh?
You wouldn't really use your non-dominant hand if you're going to just shoot yourself in the front.
Exactly.
And also, who shoots themselves in the front when you're thinking of doing suicide? Or being... I'm like, that isn't the first place that I would think of, is like shooting myself there. Not that I think about it. But I'm just saying, that's not the first place that I would go for.
So
Maybe.
it makes you think like that. Who's the other guy that he's like, oh, we're both going to make this amount of money.
That's true.
And apparently after the murder, he was bummed out because he did not make this money. So he is also a very potential suspect for me personally.
Yeah, because the timing of all that is very suspicious.
It's weird.
Very close by. Same brand. Don't know if it's same size. It's not like a Richard Ramirez kind of situation where they knew the shoe exactly. But it's weird.
So, we don't know.
We don't know. If I could just one day just know the answer to this, I would be the happiest person in the world. I just want to know what happens so badly. So another suspect. So another suspect in this is the school teacher. In 2006, a former school teacher, John Mark Carr, confessed out of the blue to the 1996 strangulation of JonBenet in graphic sexual detail. Carr was arrested in Thailand, where he'd been living on the lam after facing child pornography charges in the U.S. The now 51-year-old initially brought himself into the mess by reaching out to a University of Colorado Boulder professor named Michael Tracy over email in regards to a documentary Tracy was making on the case. Once those emails took a disturbing turn, revealing the grown man's sexual fascination with JonBenet, Tracy reported Carr to the police, who arrested him in Bangkok as a possible suspect. He was immediately flown to Boulder for questioning, but was ultimately cleared after his DNA failed to match the profile of the unknown male found on JonBenet's long johns. Carr's demented confession involved a series of diary entries allegedly written from the scene of the crime. In one dramatic account, Carr recalls strangling JonBenet in a love game gone wrong. Carr's alleged involvement broke international headlines. However, he was ultimately dismissed as a suspect altogether. He was written off as a pedophile who was after notoriety and fame. Investigators were able to confirm that he wasn't even in Colorado at the time by just doing some routine checking, and then obtained photos of him in Georgia at the time, proving that he wasn't the killer.
So this is one of the few suspects I can officially be like, he did not do it.
Definitely didn't. He wasn't even in the state.
Don't go looking into this case. Don't go reading what he wrote, because
it's nasty.
It's stuff that will never leave my brain.
No.
And I hope you guys know what I do for this podcast, because he describes what he think happened in very graphic detail, and it's all terrible.
Disgusting.
Oh.
It is horrible.
Fuck this guy. Goddamn. Right. So, oh my gosh.
We're almost done. Fear not, my friends.
God damn.
Just know that, like, we're still gonna have to cut out so much stuff. So,
do we? Do we have to cut out so much stuff?
No, because we didn't really talk too much.
This is all the notes, guys. God damn. Never let me do notes again. So our next suspect is the mother. So JonBenet gonna kill myself. JonBenet's mother, Patsy Ramsey, took whatever secrets of that morning she had with her to the grave when she passed away after a 13-year battle with ovarian cancer. Patsy is most often cited as a suspect and it is theorized that she accidentally murdered her 6-year-old child in a fit of rage over a bedwetting incident, then covered it up in post-haste. From the outside, Patsy was your pleasant and influential suburban mother of 2, known for her beauty pageant-winning daughter, JonBenet, and the lavish Christmas parties she threw every year. Still, pieces of evidence suggest she may have had more to do with the crime than she let on. First, it had been speculated that while cleaning up yet another one of JonBenet's bedwetting accidents, which are said to have occurred with some frequency. So I know they actually had like a special washing machine next to her room, just for that.
Yeah.
Patsy flipped a switch and slammed the little girl's head against the side of a hard, blunt surface like a bathtub. After realizing what she had done, staged the crime scene to make it look as though it was a kidnapping. However, it is important to remember that JonBenet was still alive when she was strangled. So this would mean that Patsy had to commit the act herself if it was her. So that kind of brings it into question.
Yeah.
Seems less likely to do that. Yet you have to remember the timing of things for these theories.
That's the thing.
So the biggest piece of evidence, however, against Patsy would be the bizarre ransom note that remains a mystery in this case. It was written in strange verbiage that seemed lifted from classic crime films. The note demanded $118,000 to be given to the foreign faction by 10 a.m. the next day, which was later figured out to be the same amount of John Ramsey's Christmas bonus from his company. Some sources, including investigator Steve Thomas, have speculated that Patsy wrote the note herself in a moment of panic after realizing what she'd done to JonBenet. After the murder, Patsy underwent handwriting tests 5 different times, and though there were strong similarities between her handwriting and the author of the note, the official verdict was found to be inconclusive, as they could neither discount or directly say it was her. Though they were able to discount both Burke and John Ramsey, hers remained inconclusive. They're like, we can't say for sure.
Yeah.
However, the fact remains that the pen and paper used came from inside the house. And actually, when the notepad was checked for fingerprints, only Patsy's could be found. Though this could also be explained by the author using gloves, which could also explain the handwriting changing.
It's true.
As the notes, which...
Even when I have fake nails, my handwriting changes.
Right? That's a good point. And so another factor to take into consideration is how long the note would have taken to write. So studies were actually done to see how long it would take, and out of the group that were tested, the fastest someone could copy the note was 20 minutes. Though this isn't accounting for the time it would take to think of what to say. Mm-hmm. So are you, as a kidnapper, going to risk that amount of time in a house? And you don't know if someone could wake up at any minute?
I wouldn't, especially if I already tried to kidnap and it went wrong, and I'm like, I'm gonna still leave this note so they don't find the body. I don't know. I don't think so.
It's weird. So investigators noticed the beginning of the note was written in poor fashion, while further down the note, the handwriting becomes cleaner. Again, that could also be because of a glove.
That's true.
I do also want to note, though, that following the murder, Patsy did in fact change her handwriting and change the way she wrote certain letters, like her A's was the most prominent change.
Interesting.
Like everything, it could be nothing and it could be everything.
It's true. That's how this whole case is. It could be nothing, but it could be everything for it. This could be the biggest breakthrough, but this could also be nothing.
We just don't know.
We just don't know.
Like
another suspect. Or did you want to go on? Or another suspect in this is the father. Police arrived at the crime scene that morning, the morning after Christmas, to find no footsteps in the snow or signs of a possible intruder. Detective Arndt noted that after telling John to search the house top to bottom, he made a beeline straight for the basement cellar, where he immediately found the deceased child. Though he's been told to leave everything where he's found it, he picked her up, carried the body upstairs, removed a piece of tape from the child's mouth, and placed her down, and all of these actions destroyed vital physical evidence. That's when Detective Arndt started to feel that perhaps John knew too much. Detective Arndt had made no secret of her suspicion towards the family, while John's unseen discovery of the body was suggested to have been the fault of a botched police investigation. Some believed it's strange that intuition alone would lead. Words are hard. Some believe it's strange that intuition alone would lead a person to an admittedly unused part of the home. Detective Arndt told ABC News in 1999 that she'd found other actions of theirs suspicious too, like how John and Patsy left the 10 a.m. deadline in the ransom note slip by without a word. I said that really weird. That was a pause I did not need. Like how John and Patsy let the 10 a.m. deadline in the ransom note slip by without a word. Detective Arndt described kneeling beside JonBenet's body, inches away from John Ramsey, so convinced the murderer was in the house with her that she claimed to have quietly counted the bullets in her holster just in case she had to use one. I love your little notes.
Which is so dramatic. No matter what your theory is.
I love that. She's
so goddamn funny.
That would be me though in that situation, but like okay.
You guys need to watch interviews with her because oh my god, she's the one that has crazy eyes.
It's crazy. It's interesting for sure. So innuendos of sexual abuse began to circulate, though no evidence was ever found to prove these allegations. There is no history, Ramsey said in a statement. A person doesn't go throughout their lives as a normal human being, one night turn into a monster, slaughter their daughter, go to bed, and get up and act normal from there on. That doesn't happen. Is that what you think happened here, John? Anyways, he too was exonerated with his late wife Patsy in 2008. Once touched DNA testing cleared all three members of the immediate Ramsey family. Okay, that doesn't prove anything to us though. But like, I don't think that he personally did it, but I think he was involved. Anyways, I'll get into that later.
So I will say really fast, I know at the beginning it says that there was no footsteps in the snow or signs of a possible intruder. This has actually been disputed because there was a little bit of snow the night before, but they had actually quite a few sidewalks and walkways to different parts of the house. So it's not crazy to think that someone could walk on the sidewalks and not leave any footprints.
That's true.
Besides that basement window, there were two other possible points of entry. So the Ramseys actually had two windows open because they had Christmas lights going. And so they had a cord running from outside inside.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe someone came that way.
That's true. If you don't have those safety things to like keep it from your window from opening all the way, you can just slip right in, slip right out.
Yeah. I, for whatever reason, didn't put it in here. But so they also, Jesus Christ, my brain. They also didn't have their alarm system engaged, which would actually kind of make sense. So apparently it had gone off a few times because they had two small kids. And I guess if it goes off enough times, you start getting fined, like really heavy fines.
That makes sense.
So that would kind of make sense.
You're also like a multimillionaire. Why are you so worried?
I don't know. So that one's a little up in the air. They're also their dog, because they had a dog. The dog wasn't there that night because the dog was actually at a neighbor's house since they had been planning on taking that trip early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, weird things. Ugh. Never let me write down.
So many things.
Do you see why my brain was fried?
Yeah.
My brain is fried.
I can understand why, like, for a while, this is all that we could talk about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It was bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so our last suspect is the brother, Burke Ramsey, a.k.a. the fan favorite theory according to everyone I know and my most recent Twitter poll.
It's true.
Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
No,
I did see that.
I laughed. I'm like, damn.
Almost everyone voted for the brother.
Yeah. Which we'll get into. I can see why. But then
the most sense. But also, we just may never know.
But also, I have evidence that
We have,
maybe it
yeah,
wasn't.
exactly. Like, it's the most likely, but it's also the most unlikely.
Boom! All right, so John and Patsy Ramsey diligently shielded JonBenet's older brother Burke from the press for years after the murder. And judging by his recent very strange interview with Dr. Phil, that was probably a good idea. Ramsey, who was formally exonerated in 2008, along with his parents, made a decision to clear the air. And in 2016, the 29-year-old software developer creepily grinned through his interview with Dr. Phil. Soon after, CBS aired The Case of JonBenet Ramsey, a two-part documentary that reinvestigated the evidence of the crime with a select group of FBI and forensic experts. The documentary leaned their suspicion towards Burke Ramsey as close as they possibly could without making any kind of formal accusation. The CBS team set up a compelling theory, with forensic investigators stating that he suspected JonBenet's skull fracture came from a blow to the little girl's head with a blunt, heavy flashlight seen in a photo on the kitchen counter in the crime scene photos. He claimed that the flashlight didn't belong to any of the Ramseys. Side note. But he claimed that the flashlight fit the 8.5-inch gash on her skull to perfection. Mm-hmm. However, there wasn't any trace evidence of either JonBenet or Burke found on the flashlight. Important note.
That is important.
So the flashlight became even more suspicious when tied to the pineapple scenario. A theory that suggested JonBenet had taken a slice of fruit from Burke late nights from
Burke's snack.
A theory that suggested JonBenet had taken a slice of fruit from Burke's late-night snack found on the dining room table, which, in crime scene photos, you can see there is a bowl of pineapple milk. This is a bowl of pineapple that has milk in it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't get it.
I don't want to get it.
Me neither.
I would rather not get it.
So, should I say this before? I'll say this now. When they showed these pictures of Patsy, she again said that they didn't give any pineapple to JonBenet. She said that she didn't make that for Burke. And if you look at the photos, it's a very big spoon in a small bowl. And she was saying how if she had made a snack for her son, she would have used the appropriately sized spoon, which actually makes sense to me. So it's highly likely that Burke made that snack for himself.
Exactly.
With a comically large spoon in a small bowl. I could see that.
As a 9-year-old, I would definitely do that.
Oh, yeah. Would I do pineapple milk? Probably not.
No, maybe cereal with milk. Or maybe just pineapple with, like, rum.
Ooh. So good. So, suggested that JonBenet had taken the slice of fruit from Burke's late-night snack, and the undigested piece of pineapple was found in the child's stomach during the autopsy, leading him to strike her with a nearby flashlight out of anger. Lastly, the wounds on JonBenet's back, previously assumed to have come from an encounter with the stun gun, were consistent with edges of one of Burke's toy train tracks, which the documentary suggested may have been used by Burke to poke... may have been used by Burke to poke his sister's unconscious body for a response. However, Burke shot back immediately after the special aired. His attorney, L. Lynn Wood, claimed that CBS perpetrated a fraud on its viewers and filed a $75 million lawsuit against CBS for defamation. Then Wood filed a $150 million lawsuit against this specific forensic investigator for potentially defamatory statements he made about Burke while promoting the special. Holy shit.
That's a lot of money. Burke, I don't think you did it.
Don't sue us.
Don't sue us. We got no money.
So I guess the case, though, was settled in 2019, and while the terms of the settlement were not disclosed, the lawyer stated the case was amicably resolved to the satisfaction of all parties. Whatever that means. So I still don't know how she got the marks on her body.
We may never know.
Did I already say how it looks? Like, if you look at pictures...
Like a bruise.
Yeah. Did I say that on air?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's like we've said so many things. I don't know.
So basically, if you guys don't look at autopsy photos, take my word for it. There are 2 marks that a lot of investigators were thinking were stun gun marks. I don't know either way, quite honestly. If you look at other pictures of stun gun marks, they look a lot different, but there's also different types of stun guns is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
These look more like a bruise to me, but I am also a not professional.
That's true. We are not professionals.
We're not. So I could be completely wrong. Granted, it is a size consistent with both a stun gun and train tracks. You could play that either way. Or it could be something else entirely.
It could just be a coincidence. We may never know. Maybe that's an unrelated situation.
Because the stun gun theory is, it does have a lot of questions with it. People have said, well, if you tased a kid, she would scream. But then others have brought up the point that she only weighed 45 pounds. And
she would not handle that very well at all.
No, there has been cases where children that small have been tased and they drop instantly without making a sound.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think, but that does happen. So if it was a direct tase like that, it may have left a burn mark. That could have been a thing. Mm-hmm. Or it could have also been something else. So
something completely different that we may never know.
I know that's a wishy-washy answer, but that seems like both sides of the case, and I really don't have an answer for that one. I will say, though, that the Burke theory does have a lot of problems with it, and you guys might hate me for this, but I want to give you the truth. I really do. And I will say that before diving into this was what I thought. And this is what a lot of people think because of that interview with him, which if you watch the interview, he is smiling. It's a nervous smile. It's a it's an I'm uncomfortable.
He knows that he's a suspect and he's trying to clear himself from that.
Yeah.
That's a very uncomfortable position to be in after having to be silent for so long. Mm-hmm. After being shielded from it, from knowing that his parents for the longest time have been accused for it. That like his mother died being accused of killing her own daughter.
This is his first interview in 20 years.
It's nerve-wracking. Like you want to make a good impression. You want to be like, I would never do this to my sister. And I didn't do this to my sister. Mm-hmm. Like you want to win people over and you're like, I'm just going to smile and try to be as polite and try to make this seem as genuine as I can. It's not going to work out all the time.
No.
But we can't just assume that he's the killer. Like, even if that's my opinion, if I thought that he was the one, like, I would joke about it, be like, yeah, it's the brother. But like, no, like, we don't know. I would never go up to him and be like, you killed your sister, because we don't know.
No, and there's been speculation that he could be on the spectrum. That's never been diagnosed by anybody, so I can't say for sure. Dr.
Or like the trauma from it.
Yeah.
Like, he could be dealing with a lot of trauma from having to deal with his sister dying, never knowing what happened, and also from the trauma of like dealing with your whole life being a suspect.
Yeah.
Since you were 9, since you were a child, people being like, you killed your sister. We all know what happened. And trying to like, and your parents are trying to like protect you from that, but you still see all those things.
Yeah. So I don't think you can take that interview with more than he's nervous.
Yeah.
I really don't think that implicates anything. Of course, you guys are totally allowed to feel a different way. I get it.
Like, if he ever came out and confessed to doing that, I'd be like, I knew it. But also, like, if we find out it was someone completely different, I'd be like, I knew it. It's that's the thing about this is that it goes in so many different ways,
so many directions.
Like, my personal opinion about what happened is it will change depending on my mood, because it's just like there's so many different pieces of evidence that work so well together, and then so many other pieces that will cancel out what I had thought.
Exactly.
And it's like
that
who fucking knows?
the CBS special, they did present a lot of evidence that when you look at it, you're like, holy shit, it was Burke. But again, that is the cherry picking of the total evidence because, and this is my main problem, and this is why I actually don't think it was Burke.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't hate me. Please listen. Please listen.
Preach your word.
I do have science on my side.
Science is on your side, Kate. I'm drunk.
Cheers. So
I've got water.
So here's why the Burke theory has problems. So for starters, the autopsy report proved that JonBenet was strangled and then hit on the head shortly after. This is proven a few different ways. So first off, JonBenet, like I said, had defensive wounds on her neck that would have occurred as she attempted to pull away the cord strangling her. So there was a lot of scratches and nail marks on her neck from her trying to get it off. So she was alive.
Yeah.
With the amount of trauma caused from the hit to the head, she would have been immediately incapacitated and would most likely have been left brain dead. So she wouldn't have been conscious to stop that attack.
So the strangling had to happen before she got hit in the head.
It had to, because it was also proven by autopsy reports that show a slowing of the blood to the brain that would have been caused by the strangulation, ultimately, strangling, Jesus, fuck. That would have been caused by the strangulation until ultimately dying from a blow to the head. So basically, she's being strangled. She is dying. That blood flow is slowing to her brain. You can tell that it's slowing because then she dies from the blow to the back of the head. That blood is there. You can see that in the autopsy. You can see that it's slowed.
The thing about what I'm trying to think of is, like, as a 9-year-old, if you're angry, hit your sister in the back of the head. You're not going to be like, oh shit, she's going to die. Or like, she's freaking out. I got to strangle her. That's not what you're going to do.
But then also physically it's impossible because...
Yeah. Like, even if, like, for some reason you find an item that, like, gives her a blow to the head with that much force to accidentally kill her. Like, there's no reason to, like, even try to fight and strangle her in that situation. And then you wouldn't... And I don't think that, like, he has had that, like, that incident with the golf club, but I don't think there's enough evidence to say that, like, he would have been that violent with her on purpose, with intention.
Like, the forensics show that he would have had to make this garrote, strangle her first.
And I don't think he would have had the like, he wouldn't have been able to execute that as well as it had been.
Nope, it was specific knots used. Imagine a 6-year-old is struggling against you when you're 9. You are not going to have enough force to basically embed that cord into her neck as deeply as it was.
Yeah, I don't think that he was responsible in any way for what happened.
Which I know, guys, I know that sounds crazy, but you have to think that garrote was not being used to cover up a hit to the head. So you have to take that out of the account. And what does that leave you with?
Exactly.
It could still be a cover up in some way,
That's
but
true.
It's not covering up
like,
the head.
It's not like he strangled her with something else, and then they were like, "Oh shit, we gotta replace what he strangled her with something something that's too complicated for a 9-year-old." No,
that makes no sense.
That wouldn't make any sense at all, and there would be evidence on that too of messing with what happened too. So
like, that's my biggest thing with why I don't think Burke was involved with her murder. Again, you guys can take that as you will.
Everyone's free to their own opinion.
Yeah. I want to give you the proper autopsy reports. I know that this has been explained a lot of ways, but this is the actual, like, scientific way that she died. That was agreed upon by multiple sources.
Exactly.
I can't explain the pineapple in her stomach because the bowl that they only found Burke and her mom's fingerprints on it. So maybe she came down, most likely, like, because I saw another theory that, okay, so let's say Bill McReynolds is like, hey, you're going to get a special visit from Santa on the 26th. You're a little kid. You fall asleep in the car. You wake up in the night. You're like, oh my God, Santa's coming. Holy shit. I'm 6. I'm stoked. You go downstairs because you're going to go find Santa. You see Burke there. He has pineapple. Maybe you take some pineapple, eat it. Maybe nothing happens. Maybe you go back upstairs. Like,
who knows?
That seems more plausible to me.
That's very possible. If you wake up in the middle of the night after like a long drive, after like you've already slept enough in the car, you go home, you go to bed, you're going to wake up in the middle of the night. You and your brother are just like in the kitchen now. He made himself some pineapple with milk for some reason. You're going to just take some from the actual bowl, not touch anything else, then go and do your own thing, go back to bed, and who fucking knows?
And like, maybe it was the Ramseys because their stories were so inconsistent. They said that they put Burke to bed and they didn't see him. They could have fallen asleep. I think they fell asleep. Burke made the snack. JonBenet then went and got the snack. It's
so many things that could have happened. I personally think that it's an intruder.
Which I know how that sounds. I know how that sounds.
But
you have to look at all the evidence.
It's like, the thing is, there's, with the evidence of there being previous incidences where she has been assaulted.
Because it was at least once a few days prior to her death. That could have been with an adult she knew. That could have been with another kid. We don't know.
It could have been with some random person who came into their home.
Yeah.
During the Christmas tour that they were doing. Like, we don't know because of how many people go in and out of that home within that time, like within that season, within that Christmas holidays time. We'll never know for sure. Like, most likely, like, what I think is that it's someone that they probably knew.
That's what I would think, because I think more like statistically, if it's someone that the person knows, they are less likely to report it to anyone.
And so, like, it makes sense if it's someone they knew with, like, maybe even like a prevalent, like, title or position within the city. Like, it'd be like, we can't do anything about this. We have to figure out a way to hide all of this and like what happened. And so they forged a story because they couldn't let it be known. But like, it's so complicated in that way. It's like either it's someone that they're very close to that they're also loyal to, or they had some, like, the people who did it might have had something against them that would, no matter what, they were in a bad light. No matter what happened, if it's someone they knew, if it was someone in the family, if it was an intruder, like, it all paints the Ramseys in a terrible light that we can't know what happened, what forced this situation to be the way it is.
Oh, let's see. Sorry. What was going on here? Let's see. Let's see.
I don't know what I said, so you can't make me repeat myself.
Deal.
Okay.
Yeah, I know it sounds wishy-washy. I get it. I do. I understand. But I think to form the best opinion and to prove a point that you believe in, you do need to look at all the evidence. if you're cherry picking, that ultimately it weakens your argument.
Everyone personally, no one in this seems innocent.
No.
No one in this situation looks innocent.
No. I think in my... Okay, this is going to sound dumb, and maybe it's dumb, but upon researching this, I also fucking looked into all like the tarot and psychic readings for this.
Of course. The best way to do it.
So much research for this. According to my findings, all alleged for entertainment purposes only. Of course. Mm-hmm. So, apparently, JonBenet doesn't talk to every psychic. She, like, I guess
picky.
She's a little tricky. You have to have the right intentions with her, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I can understand that. She also seems to consistently appear as a woman in her, like, upper 20s. Very tall, apparently.
So she's growing in her spirit.
Which is...
She's grown up.
Has been, like, a consistent thing with a lot of psychics I've seen her. Which I thought was really interesting.
That is really weird. Which makes sense also that she was always perceived as looking older than her age.
Yeah.
And so for her to be like, well, I'm going to keep growing and become how I have been perceived this whole time as an older person.
Because it's also like, she's like, they've said like she's like more plain looking, like not much makeup. It could also be her trying to separate herself from all those pictures and videos of her as a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Trying to separate from that. That would make sense to me as well.
Yeah.
She apparently, in psychic readings, thinks it's hilarious that people think it was Burke. They're like, she's like, no fucking way. He was experiencing, allegedly for entertainment purposes only, the same abuse that she was.
Mm-hmm.
I think there was abuse going on.
Definitely.
I can't confirm what kinds.
I wouldn't even be able to say that it would be in the immediate family either. That's the thing is, with how many people come in and out of that home, with how many friends and family, like close friends and friends of friends that would be in and around the house at all times, and like employees and whatnot. Like, I'm not saying that the housekeepers or that anyone did that. Like, I'm just saying with how many people are in and out of that house, how big that house is, you don't know what's happening.
No, you really don't. And so, like, from all the psychic readings, again, it seems like most consistently it was done by people who were involved with her dad. I think he was allegedly, again, for entertainment purposes only, don't nobody sue me. I think he was involved with some stuff. I won't go into it. You guys can probably guess. Not great. I think it involved with the pageants as well.
Yeah.
So I think that she wasn't meant to die. I don't think she died in the basement as well.
Definitely don't think that.
I personally think Patsy wrote the note. I could be wrong. I could be completely wrong. But I think that she was told what to say, instructed what to write, them covering up what happened is a bit harder to explain. That's why I think like most likely people involved with the dad.
Yeah. Like it could be someone that has close relations to the dad or in his company that he works at, built, or someone that influences something else that the dad's involved in. Yeah,
so it could have been people that were involved with him coming in, trying to do some stuff. Maybe something went wrong. Maybe the strangulation was a thing related to that in a way I don't want to talk about because I don't want to. Something went wrong. They hit her in the back of the head for whatever reason. The family then needs to stage it. Or maybe
because of how incriminating it would be, they would have to stage the situation to be like, this doesn't look good in any way for us. We need to make it look like we weren't even involved. We need to make sure it looks like we weren't involved.
So I don't necessarily think the family members did it.
Yeah.
But I think that they were involved with covering it up.
Oh, definitely. That's what I'm trying to say is like they involve themselves by trying to make themselves not look involved.
Yes.
And so that's how it makes it all so messy is that we just can't figure out what really happened because so many little things are happening behind the scenes. There's so many strings on this. We can't see what is pulling what and what the true picture is on the other side.
Nope. I think there's also most likely some involvement with the police. I think that they were also I think that there were some higher up members there in the politics as well that were involved with the same thing that her dad was. That would have all been kind of part of this.
It's very possible. But then again, these are all theories. These are all we're not accusing anyone of anything. It's just very possible. It's very plausible that these things could have happened. But it's hard to imagine it's only the immediate family.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, everyone's like, oh, it's the brother. Oh, it's the mother. Oh, it's the dad. No, they might have been involved in like, yeah, I'm like, they might have been involved afterwards, but they were not involved in the killing of of JonBenet Ramsey, I think.
Yes. I think that's a good general theory.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What do you guys think?
Please tell us your thoughts. I've been thinking about this for years.
So personally, that's where I've landed. I didn't expect to land at this conclusion, but I feel better knowing that you guys now know the wide range of evidence and not just cherry-picked parts that have a bias from the start.
Like, I always love to joke about that it's the brother, but we all know that there's so much more to this. That's why it hasn't been solved yet. Mm-hmm. That's why we haven't been able to get conclusive evidence that it's a specific person, because so many little things are tied to this that will make it so that person can't be, or that situation can't be the actual thing until we'll just never know. That's the thing, is that there's so many things that we could have found out, or we should have found out at that time, but so many things were botched. So many things were just dismissed that now it's just like, it's going to be like a thing that we'll just have to always think about and just theorize.
Yeah.
Until something happens, until maybe we learn something. Because I wouldn't be surprised if Burke was asleep the whole time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he may know something, but he might not remember it because of repression and trauma.
Yeah.
That's
might have repressed all that too. Yeah.
It would seem like sorry, from the psychic interviews, when people ask like the purpose of what happened on a psychic and spiritual level, JonBenet allegedly has said that it is to bring attention to child abuse, which I thought was really interesting. So in most cases, she just says to look out, be aware of surroundings, look at when things are weird, when they seem normal.
That is a very interesting thing, because like you look at this whole case, and that is the basis of it, is like there was some sort of sexual, emotional, maybe even physical, like trauma and abuse in this situation that went, like the physical, like for sure went way too far.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that like really encaptures people and like makes them so obsessed with this, is like there's so many layers to this, so many things that we need to focus on and understand. And like, if we had known all these signs beforehand, maybe we could have been like, yo, like, this is an unhealthy situation that you're all in. We need to go to therapy. We need to like do all these things. We need to get your friends out of this house because that's not healthy for the kids, both of the kids. But at that time, like, that wasn't a big thing. That wasn't a big deal. No. It's the 90s. We barely did anything. There was still latchkey kid. I was a latchkey kid till like I was like 10 or 9 or no, when did I move? Probably 7. Like from the age 4 to 7, living in
Damn.
an apartment complex. I would be out until sundown.
Lucky. See, my parents both lost siblings, so guess who had helicopter parents?
See, but from like 7 to like 16, I was stuck in my house. Because then they got way too protective and they're like, nah, you can't leave this house. Anyways.
We've had the best of both worlds. I think that's our final thoughts on it.
I have no thoughts.
I don't know that it'll be solved, which it sucks because I obviously want justice for her.
Yeah.
I can, again, I'm sorry I keep going back to the psychic readings, but I just watched so many and they touched me in a different way in my heart. I can't explain it. But a lot of people asked how JonBenet was doing currently on the other side. Seems that she's actually doing really good. Happy.
She's learning. If there was abuse out there, like she's free from that. Yeah. She's able to grow in her own way now if she's learning and she's somehow spiritually grew up into something more. Like
it seems like she doesn't blame her brother or her mom. It seems like her mom's spirit still blames her dad.
I don't know. Like we said, it might not have been the immediate family immediately involved, but there is definitely some influences that they knew about that affected it, I think.
Yes.
Like, I don't think it was just some random stranger, really.
No.
I think that it was someone that they knew, but they just didn't expect it to go that far.
Yes.
And because of the influence and because of how well they work together, no matter what, they always will look bad. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be the sad curse of like this JonBenet Ramsey situation. Of the Ramseys is that even if we somehow get everything cleared, they'll still be blamed for what happened.
And like in the court of public opinion, it's really rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that a fun episode, guys?
I hope you enjoyed it. It's a long episode. And
how long is this episode?
It's probably not the longest one we've done.
Longest one is almost 3 hours.
This might definitely be the longest one then.
To be fair. 19 pages of notes. How many days of research?
And the thing is, that's why this one needed to be an actual, like, a full episode. Because it wouldn't do justice to just be like, let's just do some of it and just skim all these other parts. Because
the biggest thing is, like, you look at other podcasts and they're like, okay, Burke did it. Let's grab all the evidence that Burke did it. Because, granted, that is really easy. That's
a very easy way to
do that because this was so long.
Or being like the dad was involved in some way kind of situation. Because or the mom did something. Like there's so many things that are involved in this. It just shall not just be one person.
No.
I'm so tired. How are you feeling?
Sleepy. So I feel that. Try and contact JonBenet with ill intention. And if she doesn't want to talk to you, don't sweat it.
I'll try talking to her one day. When I feel like I trust myself enough to do that. Yeah. I don't think I'm at that point yet.
You can also ask your guides general questions too. That's what I was doing earlier. So
I'll look into my cards. Did I tell you how I was buying candles for doing some candle magic? And I was with my mom, and she's like, "Why are you buying candles?" I'm like, "To do magic." And she was like, "Are you a magician now?"
I love your
And I'm
mom.
like, yes, mother.
Yes,
I'm manifesting great things into my life right now as a magician.
manifesting everlasting hankies out of one pocket.
I'm manifesting masks connected to each other out of my sleeve for all these people not wearing masks.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I came
That'd
up
be
with a song recommendation.
Do you have a song recommendation?
I do. I think it'll also be yours.
What? I don't think so. What is it?
So since this is our special Christmas episode, what's the best Christmas song?
Is it We Wish You a Merry Christmas? No.
No.
Why? I don't know.
What's the best Christmas song?
What is the best Christmas song?
What hits the charts every Christmas, rightfully so?
Is it Last Christmas by Wham?
No, good guess though.
All I Want for Christmas Is You?
Damn!
Oh, I hate that song.
You do?
No. But I'm already tired of it.
I haven't heard it.
Oh, I personally, why I said We Wish You a Merry Christmas is like in high school. Anytime outside of December, I would be singing that song out of nowhere. If there's silence and I'm just like humming to myself, it's We Wish You a Merry Christmas.
Maybe you had a ghost possessing you.
Never during the holidays, though. Never during December.
Maybe you had a belated Christmas ghost.
After Thanksgiving till after New Year's, no, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. But January 1st to middle of November, that's a song I hummed. My friends hated me.
Never change. Never change. Love it.
And Last Christmas is such a good song. Wham. Makes me think of Katie.
We got Last Christmas by Wham. And
oh, that's not my song.
Oh, it's not?
Am I supposed to do a Christmas song?
The Christmas episode.
I was going to do Willow by Taylor Swift because Evermore came out, and I'm just obsessed with Taylor Swift right now.
Okay, so we have All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey and Willow by... Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love her.
By Taylor Swift. Good Lord. When did it get to be 11:36? When did that happen?
After 11:35.
Didn't we start like around like 7 something? What the fuck?
No, we opened up this at 7:30 something, and then you talked about the JonBenet Ramsey case.
Because I needed to fill you in. You're welcome.
For like half an hour at least, or an hour, and then we started recording at like 8:30 or 9.
I can't wait to
never... It was like 8 or 8:30, I think, that we started.
Oh God, I can't wait to never think about this case again until I have to start editing it tomorrow.
Gosh. No, when I first heard this case, I could not stop thinking about it. I was like, everyone I could find out that knew about it, I was like, who do you think did it? And they're like, the brother. And I'm like, really? Because like for the longest time, like if you don't look at all the evidence, you don't look at everything, it makes so much sense. Like, okay, the parents are covering up the brother. Yeah, that makes sense. But when you really look into it, no, like it's not possible that he could have done all that.
Nope. Well, thank you guys, gals, and non-binary pals for going on this journey with us. I hope it was a fun time.
Yeah.
Hopefully this like makes sense.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll
hopefully
find out. Hopefully. We'll see.
Hope so.
As always, you guys can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Tipsy Mysteries. And you can email us at tipsymysteries@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any parting words of advice, my dear friend?
Stay warm and cozy out there. Unless you're in the southern hemisphere, then stay cool out there.
Stay cool. Don't look at autopsy photos. Good night.
Do not look at autopsy photos. I was thinking about Ed Gein earlier.
No, I'm good.
and all the furniture I saw, and I was like, nasty. Would I buy something so like that if it was like humanely made? Maybe
Humanely sourced
humanely
flesh.
sourced human stuff. I would never buy anything by Ed Gein. He had terrible taste in his furniture.
You're right. His catalog from hell, throwback.
It's truly terrible. I've just been thinking about Vor recently. It's just bad.
I'm gonna go.
I'm like, that's for another episode. Goodbye.
All right, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.